The sizzling sausage. Studs on cement. Sport in the crisp wintry air. When the drawbridge goes up, see the absolute state of it. You're with Pez and Higgos, it's the circus.
It's been 6 full days since perhaps the greatest upset in recent AFL history occurred, and yet Carlton are still picking up the pieces of another wasted season. Or was it the loss they had to have? Is Voss under pressure? Are the Tigers good? Probably not, but it was cool to have the best game of the season with still 6 months of footy to be played across the codes, and the NRL did the most NRL thing ever by being completely unpredictable. The Warriors beat Manly, the Roosters bypassed the Panthers, and the Raiders beat the Broncos. Make it make sense, Pezza. There's also Rocky Elsom on the run, Papaya Rules in the F1, Glamour on the grid, Rory McIlroy taking a kid's phone, Gout Gout getting us hot. The Socceroos need to be perfect, Stuart MacGill's Coke deal, the Sheffield Shield final, boys actually Speakpipes, comedian Aaron Gocs is in the studio, and so is 312 game and Western Bulldogs Hall of Fame inductee Bob Murphy. What a show. Welcome to the circus, Pezza.
Oh, hell yeah, he goes. Well done, well done. Need to start with, from time to time on the esteemed program Media Watch on ABC, they have to report into themselves from time to time when things go wrong. Or when mistakes are made. Mm-hmm. And I'm kicking off with the boys, actually, that came in via Patreon. If you do want some more TGC, the loosest, darkest, rawest questions, patreon.com/Great Cricketer. This is from Joss Butler's Sad Eyes Redux. Boys, actually, in your intro voiceover, and we should say on Patreon, you have different chats as well. We've got a circus chat. People are responding to the circus. And he says, boys, actually, in your intro voiceover, you reference the sound of boots on cement, which we do. As the son of a civil engineer, brackets, that's its own therapy session, need to correct that this should be concrete. Quote, cement is a powder that is a basic ingredient of concrete mortar, stucco, and non-specialty grout.
Could be German.
It was developed from other types of hydraulic lime in England in the early 19th century by Joseph Aspden and is usually made from limestone. Boots on cement wouldn't make much of a sound, if any.
This feels very much like the time the guy called up GB News and says the guy says he can't grow cement. He goes, yeah, you can.
Yeah. It wouldn't make much of a sound. That's right.
No, well, I welcome that.
So
civil
do we
engineering.
need to change our intro tune? I mean, we don't say that it's a good sound. We're just saying that it's studs on cement. I'm presuming they're walking on wet cement now. And leaving imprints, as we hope to on our listeners.
There's guys drawing love hearts via sticks.
That's right, or penises. So that's it, mate. And look, should we say, so just a note of mistake to kick off the show. And as ever, we do throw over to the punters. It was an emotional weekend of football in particular. It was full of upsets in both codes. There were a lot of people very happy. There are a lot of people disconsolate and willing to scorch the earth, salt it, burn it all down, and get ready for the cricket season. So a couple of minutes of Speakpipes. Come up here, Chucky, hit it.
Number 1 draft pick kicks goal as penis looms large.
Boys, actually, the Richmond Football Club has done the impossible. Sam Lalor got his cock out, and then Sethy Campbell did that backflip shit. I'm still flabbergasted about the cock. Sam Lalor should get his cock out every week.
Boys, I just heard Sam McClure broke the news that the Carlton Football Club has underworld ties. Yeah, no shit, Sam.
Just watched Manly get pumped by the fucking Warriors, and Turbo's done a hammy. Are the Swans any good?
Yeah, not really.
What you have to understand about Dylan Brown is he didn't sign for the money. He signed for the stability that the money gives him when it's paid into his bank account on a regular basis over the course of 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's pretty simple.
What's getting me hot is Robbo, Teddy and the boys proving the haters wrong. But even more so, what's getting me hot is the rig on Jamie Humphries. Unbelievable.
Roosters have a penalty.
Here's a good one for you. The Formula One Pirelli full wet tyres actually clear 85 litres of water per second per tyre going at 300 kilometres an hour.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
Just wondering when you boys are going to start covering the best league in the world. The Isuzu D-Max Ford Hilux Triton pickup A-League. Most goals ever this round. When's the last time the NRL or the AFL broke their goal record?
That's a good point.
Chucky's here for.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Do you?
No.
Also, Big Ange out. Cheers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Fuck yes, Liverpool. Let's do it. Let's fucking beat these Frenchies. Move on. Easy side of the draw. Champions League's ours. Yeah. Win the treble with Carabao and Premier League.
Yep.
Fucking huge year to come.
Yes, come on.
Reds. I believe that's a pig at a trough.
Boys, it's dark times over here in the West. Flagmantle 2025 is dead after
yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah.
Harley Reid's diving like prime Fabio Grosso.
Harley Reid.
And Basil Zemplis won his seat in state parliament. So pray for us.
Ken Hinkley, please.
Boys, if you want to bury anti-India chat in the middle of your podcast, it is fine with me.
Controversy Mars Albanese podcast appearance as Circus Supremo Charlie Let's Rip It PM, Matildas, leaving legacy media in tatters.
Boys, how the fuck am I meant to fit in a footy feast when I've already had my big sports brekkie?
That's the sentiment from the punters. So said. Speakpipes, there was hundreds. There was hundreds this week.
Whoever sent in that last one, that's fucking done me. That's really good. Yeah, it's difficult. Well, speaking of the Sunday Footy Feast, thanks for those that tuned in to Channel 7 on Sunday to see our show. Now, some people will be saying, well, boys, you just on for sort of 3 or 4 minutes, but it is sort of our show.
They were clear about that.
They have been clear. Shaw Campbell-Brown was there. Shaw Joe Watson was there. Shaw, you know, it really is Jason Richardson's show. But in many ways, it's actually our show. So thanks for those that tuned in. And, you know, if you've got some grainy footage of you in the backyard, you in pre-season, you've walked past a game on a Saturday morning, maybe it's sitting dormant in your camera roll, Pezza. Maybe it's in the depths of your group chat from 3 years ago. Maybe you think that something has happened that needs to be shared from your local amateur league in any sport. Send it over to us and we'll dissect it on Channel 7 this Sunday during 7's Sunday Footy Feast.
Leading into the big game on Sunday.
Whichever game that might be. The 3 p.m. bounce.
I got home from the Sunday Footy Feast on Sunday and watched the West Tigers. You know, like it was nice. 7's got new headquarters here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
They look good. It looks good. It feels good. It's a beautiful studio.
Smells good.
That's right. You're surrounded by AFL royalty, you know? And I just had to reconnect with some Sydney roots. And I just got home and I was like, the Tigers versus Para from Combank for me, please. From an overcast Melbourne.
That's right. I was too busy sniffing the walls. It smells so good. All of a sudden, I'm sniffing Joe Watson. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with which code do you want to start with? I mean, it was sort of like I suppose the biggest thing that happens in across the codes was what happened on Thursday night.
I mean, it feels like 10 years ago.
It does feel like 10 years ago.
We got Carlton fans in this team, in this studio, who's claiming that there's a sort of statute of limitations on it. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the fallout isn't complete until the circus has their say. You know what I'm saying?
It does feel, look, was it the loss they had to have is the question. But of course, a bigger question broader is like, what's happening at Carlton? What's happening at the footy club? What's happening at the football club? Now, is it a cultural thing?
Which is a way you've got to describe any footy. You can't say the name of the team.
I guess
Aussie rules.
We now know the question that's plagued us for centuries. Can your club president tweet a picture of your penis to a club sponsor in January and win your first game of the season in March? And I guess the answer is no.
You probably can. I'm sure it's happened before.
But not on Twitter.
Yeah, you haven't posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
You haven't posted your cock on Twitter. Or somebody has, allegedly.
And then they got control of their account.
That's right. Well, it wouldn't, if someone was, hacking into someone's burner account, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened either in sport.
No, it's not. It'd be the first time they've got access to a picture of your penis and tweeted that to a club sponsor executive.
Well, Cox were very much the order of the day in this game. Richmond Carlton, Sam Lalor, the number one draft
pick. A touching
pick
tribute.
Well, exactly the
former president.
He's the coming man, Sam Lalor.
I didn't say that.
Did a jaw. that would have taken it to another level.
I saw a backflip.
There would have been plenty going around at the time. he kicks a goal. His cock basically protrudes from his shorts. I don't know if you're watching this or listening to this in NRL land, Rugby League land. Quite the sight from the young man as Richmond toppled Carlton, an enormous upset, Flagmond, and we're actually learning here via Drew Jones at Fox that it's his first game, first win, Rising Star nomination. And after his MCG wardrobe malfunction, Drew Jones at the Journal at Fox can confirm that Lalor and his management, or which one is it, are in talks with Bonds. Marketing genius.
The mouse is out of the house. Bonds.
That's right. Like you can't. This is the thing. This is how corporatized sports become now. You can't just. No man can just kick a goal and get his cock out without turning it into fucking bunts. You know what I mean? There's a good dollar in that. So there's a Bill Hicks bit, it's a really good dollar. So no, just let him get his cock out. Let him kick a goal with his cock out without turning it into bunts. But,
He's kicked a goal, cock out. I know. Branding, turtleneck sweaters.
Exactly. Like, what is that person? Like, his management team just see his cock out. It's like, you know what? Someone got on the phone to Bonds now.
Yeah, that's right.
No one wins out of that. His bank balance wins, I guess.
I suppose
but the people don't see the cock.
There was also that news that Carlton were due to have a membership day on SEN the following day, but they put that in the bin. Although someone at SEN was not informed because there were ads going out at 7 a.m. apparently on SEN. So
ads on SEN, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know, news to me as well. Anyway, so I guess that was the highlight of the round. There's also been some eternally Harley Reid chat. Kane Corn's not happy with Harley Reid though, Pezza.
Is it Vol-Kane-O stuff or? Because I saw some Vol-Kane-O stuff on handshakes.
There are so many pieces to camera at the moment.
Once again,
there are so many pieces on camera.
Many pieces knocking around.
I can't keep up from which avenue it's coming from at the moment. But
we can't judge that.
But Kane Corn said, I'm worried about him. So some theatrics from Harley Reid after he flopped against Gold Coast in West Coast's drubbing at the hands of the Suns, and so now we're worried about Harley Reid. Now, this is a general theme of this week, Pezza, because there's been some surprising results, generally speaking. Players are back in front of our eyes, back and doing on the big stage, doing the things. Pieces to camera, pieces out in front of camera, pieces on my phone, pieces on Twitter. But maybe people are just finding their feet, or do we need to find binary answers to what's going to happen for the rest of the season based on a couple of hours of footy we've seen
Nuance-free zone, mate. You don't cover footy with nuance. Simple as that. Okay, we'll have Bob Murphy and see what he has to say about that.
Let's slam someone.
That's right, yeah. Things have to be... in fact, Carlos Brathwaite, which is a moniker of somebody on Patreon as well, wrote in and said, looking forward to Carlton's insipid performance that nearly made me vomit. And that be the subject of this week's new segment from Pez and Higgos called The Blowtorch.
The Blowtorch,
under the pump, or something that alludes to a heat, fire, or some sort of mechanical pressure device.
Okay.
So taking suggestions from people if that's what this segment should be called. Are we applying the blowtorch? Are we applying the blowtorch to Kane Corns, who in turn was applying a blowtorch or a Vol-Kane-O or some kind of fiery element taking place?
Okay. Scorched earth stuff.
That's right. Scorched earth stuff, salt it, everything.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Burn it down and start it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose so. What I've enjoyed actually in the AFL in the last couple of days, Pez, I'm not sure if you've seen this on TikTok, but Collingwood defender Isaac Quaynor has been posting on TikTok asking his followers what scent he should wear on game days.
Charlie likes it.
He's literally doing pieces to camera, separate to what the Carlton president did in January.
That's right.
And he's been asking his followers, what kind of cologne should I wear? So he asked on opening round. They got pumped, obviously. Collingwood not they got pumped. They lost. And so
142-point turnaround. Pies are back.
Well, flag pies.
Just
add flag to every single time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is that something that do we think has been conjured or confected by his management team? Like Lalor gets his cock out, Bonds. He gets a Bond sponsorship. This guy talks about scents.
Yeah. Well, I also did see he was doing some stuff for Glamour on the Grid, which is basically I'm going to talk about that later, but
we're still dirty, aren't we?
Yeah. Are we the only people that didn't go?
I also feel bad because you're looking very good these days ahead of the wedding, and I just wonder if they've had a look at both of it and gone, there's no glamour knocking around, at least on one half. You know what I mean?
I'm sure about that.
Charlie, is that something younger guys do? Like is that a social media method right now to ask questions of the audience about banal things like what scent you should wear?
Yeah.
No, I think he's setting a trend here.
It's trend setting.
Because he's asking how should I smell? Before a game of AFL.
I'm hearing this for the first time, so
okay.
I imagine it's he wants you to imagine how he smells while he's playing.
Well, he's a good-looking man.
There you go. So it's getting the olfactory senses going as well, like hitting all the senses.
Now, if he just put on a bit of Old Spice,
Yeah.
that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Lynx Africa.
Mate.
And a pair of socks.
Lynx Africa was S tier stuff back in year 9, locker room stuff. Africa was like wearing the Winnie the Pooh monocle over your Lynx Java, for example.
Yeah, good reference.
Yeah. Like how Hawthorn had 8 points before 12 teams had played a game. Just the entire opening round 0, everything's gone so well. Good team, Hawthorn. Don't get me wrong. I just like that they were 8 points clear.
It's not good for the Autos out there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
It's a great way to start the season, you know. Like you're a fan of a team, you haven't played a game yet. Hawthorn's on 8 points. Cheers. 2-year rebuild, they're back.
Unassailable lead.
That's it.
Like Hockball is good.
Yeah, he just
8 points out in front.
Yeah, that's right. Hell of a system. Sam Mitchell's got them humming.
The Tassie Devils are obviously a new football team coming soon. Revealed their mascot overnight is called Rummin, which is Tasmanian slang for odd or eccentric.
I like it. Well, leaning into that, I like it.
Yeah. Are they're leaning into the mocking of Tasmanians with like two-haired and, incest sort of gear?
Well, that's just the age-old principle of owning the joke, isn't it?
Taking it away from the mainlands.
Yeah. I mean, look, get your boys actually in over this. I get the impression that the AFL is just going to get the biggest 40-foot lever possible and crowbar this team into the competition despite the wishes of everyone.
Just fucking will it into existence.
Exactly. Like the industrial complex of the AFL is just going to say, like the satellite that the MLB had, with the Simpsons. Like it is just, it's just going to happen. There are a lot of feasibility studies and very reasonable people in Tasmania saying, don't think this is really right for us.
Yeah. And then, what about a new stadium?
And here's a mascot called Rummin.
Well, here's a mascot. Oh, okay.
Graham.
Graham Rummin. Yeah. Any else catch your eye from the AFL of the weekend, Pezza? Speaking of Cox, he's out. He's got to go.
That was pretty much it. I've just got Lalor kicks a goal. He's cock out Flagmond. Hawthorn 8 points before 12 teams have played a game.
Yeah.
Vol-Kane-O going bang over handshakes.
Now, as
players are shaking hands after the game.
Oh yeah, when they former teammates.
Yeah, that's right. Well, one team got hammered and they were shaking hands, and he doesn't like it.
Yeah,
Kane doesn't like it.
Yeah,
and I for one agree.
Yeah, say that sort of stuff for the dressing room, but it's also cameras.
Yeah, that's true.
Say that for the showers, but there's going to be cameras next year.
That's right, tub cam.
At what point can players socialise?
Yeah. Well, they get paid a lot, mate. So
yeah, fucking December.
They get paid a lot.
Hadn't thought of it like that. All right, let's talk about Rugby League. As I mentioned at the top, so the Warriors beat last week's premiers Manly. The Roosters, who were pumped by the Broncos by 36, conceding 50, beat the 4-time defending premiers Panthers. Now, Braithen Nasser has asked, are we starting to see cracks? Panthers play the Storm in Melbourne this weekend.
You can't win, can you? 4 premierships in a row. At just an early season loss.
Trouble brewing.
Cracks appearing.
It's not easy, is it?
Oh, and it's not easy for Braith, to be fair to him. I think he's got a really good interview with Matty Johns this week, and just, comes across really well, Braith and Astor. But, if you're on all the time, and once again, we can't judge it, what are you going to say? Like, Penrith, well, something gone wrong there?
Yeah.
You've got to say it, right?
To be fair, he was saying this is how high we set the standards for the Panthers. He was effusive in the praise, but at the same time, he did say, well, cracks appearing.
I guess if you win every game and you lose one, I guess that is a crack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're coming from a low base.
Trouble afoot.
Yeah, the foot of the mountains.
Rumblings in the camp. As we know, Dylan Edwards out for a couple of weeks with a groin. Anyway, so the Raiders then beat the Broncos. So, I mean...
that's good. That's Ricky Stewart stuff. Like, they just get around stick. People said that I think the Raiders are, in punting terms, favourites for the wooden spoon.
Yeah, they'll.
Yeah, and they
won in Vegas.
They're 2-0. Yeah, they won in Vegas, and they've beaten the Broncos, who are who just dusted the Roosters. top 4 candidate, particularly under the disciplinarian Madge.
Yes,
no shirts,
off,
etc.
Well, your top back on.
Yeah, but that's just a stick master stroke. It's siege mentality.
Stick master stroke.
That's right. Stick Stewart, sticky.
Yeah, of course.
So this is exactly where Raiders fans want to be. They like it. Now, of course, they had their team in the early 90s, which was kind of like Globetrotter stuff. Mm-hmm. But the Raiders, by and large, have been, under Stick in particular, have been a grinding sort of team. No one wants to play in Canberra. So goes the archetype, etc.
Yes.
And he gets more from the sum of their parts. They're greater than the sum of their parts. He alchemizes it, and it's good. It's good to see.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the volcano. Pardon me. The horn that they use, the Viking horn.
Yeah.
I learned recently that no one actually blows it. You just press a button. Sorry.
Once again, robots stealing our jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
First with the checkouts, with the automated checkouts.
Just on the upsets
Now
as well. Again, like Phil Gould's done it again.
Yeah, what's he up to?
Just tweeting early season NRL win loss, new line up and down, new line, upsets everywhere, new line. It's a funny game, rugby league.
Which games aren't funny games?
I mean, funny is one word.
Yeah,
there's a lot of words you could apply.
Russian roulette. That's a funny game.
Yep, roulette. Getting closer. There was a 6,000 word profile / I'm not going to say hit piece, but the senior journalist Andrew Webster wrote 6,000 words on Phil Gould in the Australian over the weekend, which was then promoted widely across the Australian. He was on YouTube and social clips and stuff talking about his own article, basically saying that Phil Gould's powerful and weird. I encourage everybody to read it. It's a 28-minute read. It's just a lot of little vignettes about weird things that Phil Gould's done. I don't really understand the thrust of the piece, writing it. That is.
That's it. Yeah.
But
the thrust of the piece.
There's the title of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to read 6,000 words on one of the most powerful men in rugby league, with little vignettes about how powerful he is and weird he is, then
it's there for you.
It's there for you.
Well, I think right now the most powerful man in rugby league is DJ Nems.
Go on.
Who's the guy who's outside Belmore Stadium?
Yes.
And he's got decks and speakers and a shopping trolley. He's in full Bulldogs kit and he's playing just absolute bangers outside. Now, this is where rugby league needs to exist, in the suburbs of Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't belong at Amy Park, even though the Storm are going to be very good and great success. Bellamy, etc.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah, Melbourne's rugby team.
I understand that. Bears in Perth, I get it. Okay,
we'll come to that.
But what it really exists in is the suburbs, people packing suburban rugby league grounds. Okay,
yeah,
a DJ outside Belmore. Flags hanging outside of Ford Falcons and Holden Commodores. Okay, horns going off deluxe.
Yep.
A street party, Avicii, levels being played.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's what this guy's about. He's playing. Have you seen it? It's fucking chaos.
I have seen it. It's awesome. That's doggy stuff. You need that. And Phil Gould's brought that to the doggies.
He has.
I wouldn't say he's brought the Lebanese support.
I wouldn't.
That was always there.
Yes.
But Phil Gould has alchemized it again. We're talking about alchemy.
You're not saying DJ Nems is a plant. He's not an industry plant.
Yeah. There was an article in the Nine papers this week about how the clubs with suburban adjacencies or connections somehow make it work, and the entire the entire thrust of the piece was club bosses saying we shouldn't do this anymore because all the money's in corporates in big stadiums.
Right.
Which is just disappointing.
It makes me flat.
It does make you flat. I want DJ Nems, I want Belmore Park.
Exactly.
I want to look at it. I want to exhale through my nose briefly. And if those clubs run into trouble later financially, then that's a capitalist issue.
Pokies.
But exactly.
Get us out of trouble.
Exactly. So it's what the Commonwealth Bank said with the Royal Commission. Just drive the mortgages. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go with let's just get some more pokey stuff happening, and rugby league will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Rugby
How do
league's
we get
going
pokies in schools? That's the big question.
You talk about powerful men in rugby league. FYI, Roger Cook, the Labor Premier in WA, won his election last week. Now, apparently, Vlandis and Cook downed tools over their negotiations. They both agreed to down tools.
I say.
Goodwill handshake down tools arrangement.
Okay.
While Cook was winning the election, that he was $1.04 to win. And that was the book Vlandis was running. Now, Cook has won said election, and apparently the tools are being picked up again
back up.
to negotiate the arrival of a rugby league team to Perth, which Vlandis says must be accompanied with the Bears, with the North Sydney Bears. The natural combination of people from North Sydney and Perth. It's something that's we've all been waiting for.
For generations.
Yeah. Now,
hands across the Lalor ball.
Hands across the Lalor ball. That's right. People from North Sydney famously love leaving.
The enclave, that is.
That's right.
Yeah.
They barely know where Centennial Park is.
Mate, don't even know where North Sydney number 2 is.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And this is interesting because now that the tools have been picked back up, Vlandis apparently going to the negotiating table with, and he's a famously good negotiator.
Yes, he is.
Yes. Mover and shaker, etc. He nearly got Trump to Vegas.
Just about.
That's right. Trump was busy with Vladimir Zelensky.
With Zelensky's suit issue. Couldn't get him tailored for a suit. in the White House. And JD Vance looking like a baby.
Exactly. That's how this relates back to North Sydney number 2.
That's right. Yeah, sorry.
That's right. It's sliding door stuff, Gwyneth Paltrow. But Vlandis is set to sit down to negotiate the next TV rights deal, the next broadcast rights deal for the NRL.
Yes, I saw this.
And one of the hooks of it is an extra game, possibly 2, with the 18th and 19th team coming into the competition.
That's
now,
right.
the 18th team, PNG, announced. It's there. It's done.
there. It's done.
Can he get the 19th? Can Perth be the 19th team coming in 2027? That's apparently how Vlandis is going to break the $3 billion barrier.
Good.
Not so much like the sound barrier.
It's not so much like it's not quite the same as Roger Bannister breaking the minute mile sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
was it 4 minute mile?
I don't know. A lot of X's and O's people like that, but apparently Vlandis is trying to usurp the AFL's TV rights deal. Don't know how he's going to do it, but the NRL are now saying that more people watch the NRL on TV than the AFL. Don't see how that's the case myself. I'll take their word for it. And if it means the Bears are back, I'll sell my fucking soul for anything. We'll get gambling ads on here. I don't give a fuck. Okay? We've all got a price.
We'll sit on a pokey machine if it needs to happen.
Pokey's New South Wales. Reach out. Let's have them either side. Queen of the Nile. I don't care. I'll fucking slap Weiler doing this show if it means the
Everyone's
Reds
got a
like
price.
it back. Yeah,
Everyone's got a price.
That's right. I'm a weak man. Nah, that's not true.
What was Roger Bannister's record? It wasn't a 4 minute mile. Was it a 2 minute, 3 minute? Charlie?
No, it was 4. It was 4.
He was the first one to break.
I tried. Good luck getting under 3.
He was the first one to do something.
4. It was 4. It was 4.
Yeah. First under 4.
I had it right first time.
That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Just a shout out as well, talking about hands across ecosystems. Heath Shaw is the leadership consultant at the West Tigers. Have you noticed that?
The Heath Shaw.
Heath Shaw, formerly of Carlton. Fuck me dead.
Yeah,
Collingwood, pardon me.
Yeah.
Scratch that from Hansard. Collingwood and GWS, so obviously a little Western Sydney connection.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He's the leadership consultant at the West Tigers, who just knocked over Parramatta and are surging towards the finals themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with a 50% record thus far. I think it's fairly obvious. It's the Knights this season. It's all about the Knights.
If you don't want this league chat, you can also tune into, and it was just announced this week, the Kenty Blitz, 30 minutes of NRL news dropping at 5 p.m. every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Uncompromising, direct and fearless always. That's on Fanatics TV.
He has been out and about. Good chat with the boys, our friends at
I haven't listened to it yet. I'm looking forward to listening to it.
Now, do we need to talk about you calling that Ponga was going to go to the Roosters, and then this week, a couple of days later, do we need to talk about that? That wasn't a fucking boys actually, not a boys actually dropped in that inbox. You know, you made a passing comment, just like, I think it's pretty obvious Ponga's going to go to the Roosters. All of a sudden, bang!
I don't know. I reckon if you've been around the game enough and a good player is, you know, there and thereabouts with a contract at a team, then the Roosters will be sniffing. So I don't think it's a huge call, but yeah, Dylan Brown at the Knights for 46 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much money knocking around. The Roosters have lost everybody. Look like they're making space for someone or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Kalen Ponga, pretty good player.
Former Australian rugby captain Rocky Elsom has been handed a 2-year jail sentence in France after misusing corporate funds during his time as club president of Narbonne. French authorities have been forced to issue a warrant for his arrest after the 42-year-old did not show up in court on Friday local time. I'm reading an article here from the ABC, by the way. He was also fined 100,000 euros. That's 172,000 Aussie, with half the sum suspended. Elsom was president of Southern French club Narbonne from 2015 to 16. He went on trial for embezzling club funds by making unjustified expenditures to pay a coach or GM who was living in Australia at the time. So he had been living in Ireland since August 2024 and fled the country after an international arrest warrant was issued against him. Elsom had been working as a coach at a school in Dublin around the time of his arrest warrant. He said in an interview 4 months ago on YouTube that he left immediately with only a single backpack when he found out that Ireland was legally obliged to extradite him to France. This is a bit I like. When he gave the interview to Mark Burris from a hidden location, he said he had not been informed there was a public trial in October. Now, all of a sudden, Rocky Elsom's on the run. No one knows where he is. We're trying to find him. Where's Rocky?
I guess the first thing to say in this is that I'm sure it's all a mistake that can be ironed out. You know, it kind of reminds me of when you see Australians alleged to have taken performance-enhancing drugs. It's just not something that happens here.
It doesn't
we don't
happen.
operate on that level, and I don't think an Australian of the standing of Rocky Elsom, who, you know, performed with such distinction for the Wallabies with gloves on, I think. It was back in the gloves era.
Yeah, gloves.
would do something like this. I think he's making that point too. It's a mistake. It was the guy before, and then there have been a series of interviews that he's offered, prominent rugby or football scribes, and Mark Burris.
Yes.
For the last few months. So Peter Fitzsimons is one. They're all from a hidden location, and Elsom is talking quite openly about the mistake here. All the while, it's just being reported that he's missing court dates, could go to jail. There's hundreds of thousands.
Well, he's also backpacking through Europe.
Well, he just took a single backpack. He also had a job in Ireland. He had to leave that. Go
get out of town for a bit.
Yeah.
Got to get out of Dodge.
Exactly.
That's the name of the town in Ireland.
So I'm sure it's a mistake. I don't think
It's obvious.
It's not something Australians really get up to, this kind of
Because
thing.
people need to remember that Rocky Elsom played in an era where he was our only good player for quite a while.
It was the
So you have
post-winning era where he could have played in the previous era, but just got caught a bit. And in fact, even though they lost a lot, what we wouldn't give for those kinds of losses now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
He was sort of a reverse Daniel Kowalski to
thought that
to Larkham's Kieran Perkins. Different position, obviously.
I mean, fuck. There's been a lineage of. I mean, I know we've got embezzlement issues here in jail, but we've had a lineage of flankers. You know what I mean?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
I mean, and where do you begin with it? And you could go all the way back.
It's an absolute factory of flankers.
Willie Offengawi, and it just goes through, right? Especially when you talk about your blindside flankers, of which Elsom was one. Your Willie O's into your Owen Finnegans, into your Rocky Elsoms. When you got your open sides, which I think the open side flyer has it captured the imagination a bit more. You sort of went from a David Wilson into a Phil Waugh, into a George Smith, it's into a David Pocock, and how do you separate them? Because Phil Waugh played for Shaw, you see.
Yes. See, Australia started to be shit when the jerseys became tight.
Totally
when sports sites came in.
Yeah.
And Australia's last great Wallaby era was when baggy shirts were in. They hadn't done the sports science around being the accessibility of grabbing jerseys for tackles.
That's right.
It's fairly obvious what needs to happen.
Yep. Exactly.
Anyway, the former president of of Narbonne before Elsom was called Stuart MacGill.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. Which again was another mistake.
I just want a couple other rugby things to I pick up on.
Yeah.
I noted in the Nine papers a headline: Nick Frost lifted the World Cup as a boy, and now he wants to win it as a Wallaby. So congratulations to Nick Frost for emerging on the Wallaby scene. It just goes to show that it's a very broad church, rugby union. As a kid, you could literally have the World Cup and lift it, and you might play one day.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think most of those kids who play for the Wallabies now probably did do that as a kid. So, anyway, rugby's a broad church. I just wanted to shout out Max, who wrote into Boys Actually as well, to whom it may concern, brackets no one. Hailing from country Queensland, I can't speak much for the North Shore Sydney private school DNA shit and how that relates to rugby union support. However, I do know that country Queensland remains a stronghold for rugby union in Australia. This is a result of the Protestant graziers who are among the first to make their way west of the Great Dividing Range, brackets north of the Tweed at least, in the 1850s and 60s. What you have to understand about these Protestant graziers is that they left a legacy of conservatism that has been inherited by all generations since. Hence the seeming refusal to jump ship and support Rugby League. Ironically, given their reliance on primary industry, the only change they are not afraid of is climate change. Up the mighty Dolby Wheatman. Chuck, you're a Wagga boy. Where are we at on rugby union in Wagga? We understand that Wagga is the homestead of every single code. It's Switzerland on all of it.
That's right.
And that makes it the best place for sport. Where are we on union?
I wouldn't say there's. I'm going to be wrong, no doubt, but I wouldn't say there's a big history of.
Union in Wagga.
Can you name a union player?
I thought Wagga was everything.
But no one it's a sport that is played there.
Well, that's a huge call.
Yeah.
But so union doesn't really have its own place in Wagga. That's one problem that union has. Because if you can't make it in Wagga, then what chances do you have?
Yeah. So Wagga has Taylor, Mark Taylor, Michael Slater, Laurie Daly.
Yep, Paul Kelly. Yep. Who else you got?
Well, Paul Kelly. I mean, that's AFL history. It's lineage.
Yeah. Well, I think Kelly and Daly used to go up against each other in both sports.
That's fucking awesome. Who was the last?
Can't imagine.
Who was the last great export from Wagga? There's one for Boys actually. Let us know. Charlie.
Bang.
There's a few in the AFL.
Who else we got? Who are you proud of from your hometown?
Like recent?
Whatever. Just say some names.
Jamie Soward is
Sweet and Sour.
there or thereabouts.
Yeah, sweet and soured.
Dave Barnhill.
Oh, this is good, Charlie.
Who now? Dougal Howard. He's in the AFL.
Sounds like it's sort of slimmer pickings in Wagga now.
Yeah, he left years ago actually. But anyway, any like A-League players or Socceroos?
Matilda's goalkeeper. Jada
Macca.
Wyman. No. I mean, future goalkeeper.
Future goalkeeper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fuck it, you are
some
across.
of the football people would be frothing on that.
Yeah.
We've got football to come. So I want to just say on Union as well, Waratahs lost to Queensland Reds, so I'm not really having a look at it anymore. They'll throw on the bounce. They got pumped, and we're just waiting for Suoli's toe to recover.
Yeah.
It still hasn't recovered. He's got 10 games to be right for the British and Irish Lions.
And no one's seen him yet.
Yeah, and I just think that if he gets 10 games, we should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to see who he's going to play for on the Shoot Shield. That's where I'm. That's what I'm looking at.
Right, Stuart MacGill was found guilty of taking part in a supply of cocaine. It was found that he introduced his partner's brother to a dealer who facilitated the $330 coke deal. Now, as we know, that can happen.
$1,000 coke deal.
$330.
Well, a lot of us have done $330 coke deals. I mean just the general community.
That's the community.
That is.
Yeah.
That's a big
Any dealers in Wagga, Chuck?
You famous coke
Any
dealers.
sort of famous guys knocking about? You sort of Al Capones.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Ibrahims.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope everybody's doing well out of it. I did know the Daily Telegraph's headline was MacGill's drug dealer, quote, he was a very snorty boy.
So
he's been now this is probably legally, you should probably just read this out, but he was
acquitted of a more serious charge.
Acquitted of the involvement in the supply of a large commercial quantity of a prohibitive drug.
That's right.
But convicted of a large in the involvement in a supply of a commercial of a prohibited drug.
How I actually feel about this is I feel really sorry for I suppose I feel sorry for him because I know the other people involved, but like it feels like it's whatever's happened in his life, it's just fucking got away from him, right? I don't know him at all. We spoke to him years ago on The Great Cricketer, and I met him once at the SCG.
That's
but
right.
Like,
You wish for the health and wellness of all people. If there is a silver lining to it, and there isn't really, but if there is a silver lining to it, there's been a lot of footage of him bowling knocking around.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and not to trivialise it, but it's something that we'll all hoover up.
The majesty of the revs on it.
Exactly. I will be hoovering that up.
The Sheffield Shield final we played at Campbelltown Oval instead of the Adelaide Oval because the AFL won't give them the ground. Now the beauty of this came to the forefront of my mind when Adam Gilchrist shared a story on Instagram the other day, and it was of it was like 95, 96 maybe, Sheffield Shield final. It was South Australia against Western Australia. Yeah. South Australia basically blocked out the last ball of the day. Brendan Julian's bowling to Peter McIntyre, I think it is.
Peter Mac.
And then Western Australia.
You see Tim Nielsen in the change rooms contributing to the banging of the seat, like as they're running into bowl.
So Western Australia needed the wicket off the last ball. South Australia needs to just block it out. McIntyre just blocks it out for South Australia. So South Australia win the Sheffield Shield. He then they run off the field and there's basically a pitch invasion. And then it looks like there's maybe 15, 20,000 people at the Adelaide Oval.
It means a lot.
And Gilchrist, who was obviously playing for Western Australia in that game, said great memories or something, one of the all-time great circuits or something like that. And so that's the last time the Sheffield Shield was in South Australia, and now it's going to be played at a ground where there's a toilet block at one end. Probably. Oh, we've actually been past Campbelltown Oval.
Yeah, we have. You're just driving on the main road. And you're like, there's a cricket ground.
Yeah.
Is that a first grade ground?
It looks okay. Yeah.
Is that ones or threes?
That's where the Sheffield Shield final we played.
They play ones, twos there.
So I doubt it'll be the same scenes. Although, high level sporting events in communities, I'm up for that. But at the same time, the Adelaide Oval is one of the best sports stadiums in the world, in my opinion.
Per Dan Brettig in the Nine Papers, Les Burdett, the former curator of the Adelaide Oval, went whack.
He went whack.
And bang at the same time, if that's possible.
And crash?
Basically saying that they could have, that it was eminently possible for the drop-in pitch to be taken to Adelaide Oval, to be moved out. He went on to say, and I'm paraphrasing, that That's literally why you do drop-in pitches. It was sold on the basis that you could go in and out in a day.
Yeah.
Right? So that everybody could use it. You could have multi-use of places. But the AFL, in their wisdom, have said it's a safety issue.
Yeah, it's a safety issue.
And they have the right to do it. And a lot of people may point to the fact that Cricket Australia's continued underinvestment in the Sheffield Shield amid T20 expansion as Indian catastrophe looms large.
Yes.
And Saudi.
Oh, Saudi.
And Saudi. Might also be a reason why cricket can't really complain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's just 4D chess from the AFL, isn't it? It's like, oh, we'll think about it. Gary Lyon on SEN saying, like, there should be some goodwill. We should do this. It'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Last day, no thanks. Cheers.
I did see a headline, speaking of future cricket stuff and just investment in games, generally speaking, in cricket. I did see a headline saying the ECB have turned down the offer of the Saudi League. And there was just enough words in that where I was like, no, I'm out. No thanks.
Yeah. Or
ECB turned down Saudi.
Chris Barrett had this story where it's just like, Pat Cummins' manager Neil Maxwell is working with the Australian Cricketers Association to explore whether a Saudi funded T20 league might basically help rationalise the cricket calendar, which is too filled up with club tournaments. I read it as being like, if they're going to pay 4 times the money of the IPL, then we'll have a look at it. Right. The issue being that there's a few issues I'd imagine, but the issue being that there's no players association in with the BCCI with Indian cricket, so players get paid about 7% of the total pool of money coming in, even though that's about 3 or 4 mil for the highest paid players. On a global standard, it's very unders. So Maxi and whatnot's gone talk to the PIF. Like, we'll give you some bunts, and then you might be able to watch New York versus Riyadh.
Yes.
Who do have, that is a flat deck that they can play it in. They can play like different tournaments, like Live Golf. So basically, Live Golf of cricket.
Yeah.
Players getting paid more bunts.
Yeah.
We'll see what India says. They went to England, who last month sold their summer to India, and funnily enough, England's gone not interested.
Yeah.
So, all good.
Yeah. All sounds pretty good.
Anyway, Karen Rolton Oval, South Australia versus Queensland.
I hope Wisdom's back. I hope
Uzzi's back. There's a toilet plug at one end.
I hope Uzzi's fit. Sorry, do a string at the Glamour on the Grid.
Kez is in form. 100 in the last game.
Yeah.
Play on. All right,
the football.
Here we go.
This is the thing of the week. This is the thing of the week.
Yeah, well done.
It's a new segment.
And get your requests in for thing of the week.
Thing of the week. Yeah. All right, the Socceroos are playing tomorrow night.
Yeah.
They've got Indonesia and China in this international window break for World Cup qualification. Now, here's how it sits. So Australia currently are 2nd of 6th in their group. They're in Group C of the Asian qualifiers.
World Cup qualification.
World Cup qualification. The top 2 qualify.
For a 48-team tournament. Isn't that right?
That's right. So Japan first, Australia second. Okay, Japan are on 16 points. Australia's on 7 points. And then Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and China are all 1 point behind Australia on 6 points. So it's tight as fuck. And Australia play Indonesia, and then probably on paper, the weaker side, China, away I don't know where it is.
Saudi Arabia is involved as well, which concerns me.
Yes. So, and then Australia go to Saudi Arabia away and have Japan at home after that. So Japan might have already qualified. They might go easy on us. Don't know. They're by
Who's
far the
Cahill
best.
supporting in that game?
It's a good question. So basically, Australia have to win these next 2 games to give themselves a bit of breathing room between Indonesia and China. I mean, surely we can get the business done. So Popovic is now the coach. He's had a good run so far. Is it 3 wins and a draw? Is that right, Chuck? 3 wins and a draw for Popovic since he took over?
Yeah.
As coach?
Sounds about right.
Okay.
Australia 6 games played, 1 win, sitting 2nd.
Yeah, that's right. 7 points. Ahead of the pack. Ahead of 4 teams who are on 6 points. So, and then if they finish beneath that, then they'll go into some sort of knockout stages, which is what Andrew's team even did.
Charlie wouldn't remember this. We grew up in an era where we were in Oceania.
Yeah.
So every time I see us in Asia, I'm just grateful.
Grateful.
We don't like...
I know it's like, it's technically harder, but it's not. This is way easier to get into the World Cup. I mean, you can bore that out by the fact they've been the last 4 World Cups.
Absolutely. And now there's a 48-team tournament. Harder to miss. Owen writes in, Charlie, like, it's what you got to understand, fellas, about soccer. Brackets, Charlie already does understand. There you go.
Okay.
Is that we need 5 minutes at the end of each episode with Charlie diving into the latest comings and goings of Australian soccer. And that's SOKKAH, of course. Okay. I think after listening to the latest episode, it can be confirmed that Pez and Higos are disgusting Euro snobs with no knowledge of the Australian game. While Charlie, Vuk supporter, is that what we're saying, or Vuck?
A Vuck.
Vuck, thank you. And attendee of local NPL Vic games understands that our domestic game is beautiful in its own dysfunctional yet glorious way. I don't know what is worse, outing myself as a cricket fan or a 10-year plus A-League member and fan. Nonetheless, new show is great. Could use more discussion on topics that is my niche interest, and my niche interest only through something to sit on.
Well, what I would say to that is that person forgets that if the Socceroos are good, I'll start supporting.
I also don't understand who wins the snob wars out of that, because hasn't it been reclaimed? Like, if you follow the English Premier League, which was the only soccer to really watch
Barclays.
In 1994. Yeah, I watched Barclays. In 1994, you could turn on SBS to watch like half an hour of Match of the Day and support two teams, right? That was it.
Oh, two teams.
Or Les Murray on the weekend with Johnny Warren, etc. Pufters, Wogs and Sheila's author. And you got a bit more Euro stuff, but you didn't get a lot of Australian stuff, right? But now I think the Australian soccer supporters are snobbish about the Euro snobs.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Coming over the top. It's a bit of a woke scolding. Let us know what you think. Thing of the week.
All right, Gout Gout ran the fastest 200 metres time this year. He ran a 19.98. However, that was with a plus 3.6 metres per second legal wind. Only the 7th athlete under 20 ever in all wind conditions to run a sub-20 200 metres. It's ticking all the right boxes. Now, for those interested, he signed a $6 million deal in October last year with Adidas. That takes him up to the eve of the Brisbane Olympics. Puma took the same punt on Usain Bolt at the same age, that being 16. So, you know, if you're worried about Gout Gout's bunts, as some might be, don't worry, he's okay. Up until the Olympics. And then he's looking for a new deal. He's looking for work after that.
Few things are getting me hotter than Gout Gout. I fear that I'm going to need a lot from him. I mean, this kid's in school, and now every single time he runs, I'm like, what record's been broken?
He's doing the HSC this year, yeah.
We have nary had a sprint sensation across shorter distances in our lifetime.
Well, it's a factory line once again from the Australian...
Well, and Australian sports producing a factory line.
Yeah. Australian athletics, once again... An absolute factory. Absolute factory.
Yeah, that's right. The production line.
It's a production line,
if you will.
It's a production line.
It's a production line of sprinters.
Another great success story from Australian athletics.
But if he runs and doesn't break his own records for the next 10 years,
is everything okay?
Will there be cracks appearing? Great style.
Yeah.
You know?
Are we sure about Adidas?
Kenny Blitz.
Can he win some Pumas?
Exactly. So that's the it's the ironclad rule of Australian sport is once you achieve a certain level, nothing is good unless you usurp that level.
So here's what he's
the
doing.
problem Gout Gout's got. He's going to have to be running a 9.4.
Well, what he's doing at the moment is that he's beating a whole bunch of white kids from Australia.
He's literally breaking records, but you're right.
He's
getting his reps up in GPS athletics.
Sorry, he's basically beating himself, right?
Yeah.
He's beating himself. Now, what we forget is that other countries have guys that can run. And so, there was some world championships last year. He finished second. So that makes you realise, some other guys can do it as well.
Interesting.
So he might maybe be second best in the world. Yeah, but that'll all pass.
What is he? I mean, what are we expecting him to run in Brisbane, or at least LA? It's a 9.
In the 2?
Well, you're obviously obligated to say the 2's his event.
And the 1's a bonus.
You have to contort half of your entire face so that it looks like you've got Bell's palsy. And you have to 2's his pet event.
Yeah.
2's his pet. But for the 1.
So what do you
want?
Well, it's obviously sub 10.
Oh, mate. I'm not getting down to bed unless it's sub 10. If there's a 1 in front of it,
Gout effigies.
Effigies. If there's a 1.
If there's a 1 in front of it, effigies.
Effigies outside Athletics Australia.
Wherever that is.
Where's Athletics Australia, Charlie? Is that down at the precinct there, Rod Laver and all that? Or is it?
It might be at Homebush, you know. It might be.
We just need to know where to send the effigies.
Or
at least.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah. Athletics Australia.
Yeah. Home. HQ.
Albert Park.
Albert Park down the road.
Okay,
I thought it might be there.
I thought I saw something.
The old South Melbourne headquarters there.
He runs past Puskas.
Yeah, that's right. Past Puskas' statue.
Puss Puskas. He runs past Puss Puskas' statue.
That's the name of my cat.
He runs past Puskas' statue.
Puss Puskas is the name of my cat. Well, we can do Ange out down there and effigies for Gout Gout.
Two birds, one stone.
Two birds, one stone. Efficiencies. Capitalism. Okay. Should probably talk. Speaking of Albert Park, he goes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so the Papaya Rule stung Piastri in Melbourne. The
I feared this.
Yeah, we spoke about it at length, didn't we?
Yeah.
About the Papaya Rule. The Papaya Rule was brought back in this season, the F1. That's basically, for those the uninitiated,
like myself,
it's when you can't challenge your compatriot, your teammate. You can't challenge. Right. You can race hard, you can race fair, but you can't touch cars. Yep. You can't race too intensely. Yep. So the Papaya Rule sort of stung Piastri there. Piastri here. His teammate.
In the wet.
Lando Norris. It was a soggy old Sunday.
Old Lance there.
He, Lance Norris.
Sorry.
Not bad.
Sorry. The Papaya Rule.
Yeah, so, look, Norris got the job done, I suppose, but it was disappointing to see Oscar Piastri, the 23-year-old from Victoria.
Loves his cricket. Loves his cricket.
Yeah, loves his cricket. Yeah, sure. I also enjoyed Martin Brundle, who does the pit lane stuff before the race. He just walked straight past Usman and Aaron Finch in pit lane before talking to actual celebrities.
Yep.
Sorry, boys. Good to see Uzi there, not playing for Queensland in a crucial Shield game.
He got him to the final.
He got him to the final.
What next? He's rehabbing in a hammy.
Yep.
Might get himself a game in the final at Karen Rolton.
And my other thought was
with the toilet block.
That I actually don't know anyone that's ever bought a ticket to the F1. It's just people just getting gigs through work.
Yeah, we're not happy.
I'm not talking about me. I'm just talking about people actually, even in the stands. I went through work because I've spoken to multiple of my friends that have been. It's like, did you guys buy a ticket? No, I just got through work.
It's just a place to be seen.
It's a place to be seen.
Roll the clip. Charlie wrote in on Patreon and said, just move the Grand Prix to Marvel. Very simple.
Okay.
Just under the wet there. Any danger of a roof? They do the dirt bikes there, don't they?
Oh, they're all sorts.
And crusty demons.
Well, we might talk about the golf on the other side. Should we talk to Bob? Should we get Bob in?
I think so.
I think we should get Bob in. All right. Well, we'll just reset and we'll get in sort of 10 seconds. You hear from Bob Murphy.
We have Bob Murphy here with us. Played for the Western Bulldogs for 18 seasons. I have to say this. I feel like in a kind of a, we have to say it to the audience that may not froth on Aussie rules, every single week of their life. So let me just read out some numbers and stats for them.
Please.
Played for the Western Bulldogs for 18 seasons from 2000 to 2017. Played 312 games, kicked 183 goals. In May 2023, he was inducted to the Western Bulldogs Hall of Fame. He's also the author of Leather Soul, and these days the co-host with Chanel Vella on ABC Radio Melbourne Breakfast. So another polymath on the show. Bob Murphy, welcome to the circus.
Oh, gentlemen, thanks so much for having me. Long-time listener. Actually, second-time participation. So it doesn't really roll off the tongue, but it's lovely to be in your company. That's
the
a famous
OGs will
saying.
know.
Yeah, that's right.
And you asked if you could actually hold a cricket bat.
Yeah, I forget what Tom Cruise's character's name is in A Few Good Men, but I certainly sympathise with that character. How his was a baseball bat, but you do your best thinking with a with a bat in hand. Daniel Caffey, that's who it was. There would have been backlash on the internet if I couldn't get that wrong.
Wow, Murphy forgets Caffey. Okay, yeah.
Jeez. Where's a can of Yoo-hoo when you need it, huh? How are you guys? You good? You're both looking well? You're in uniform?
Look at you. Yeah, we're from Bell Shakespeare, actually.
Yes.
We've just
we work at a cafe part-time.
Yeah.
Serving coffees. So, we're in between that.
Look at you just moving straight into hosting as well there. I like that.
I just can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Just a showbiz tart.
Yeah.
And we'll be back right after the break.
That breaks on ABC now.
When you're floating around Melbourne, because you can't just exist in the city you live in, you have to float here. You're buying your coffees, you're doing your groceries. Like, what do people want to come up and talk to Bob Murphy about? Like just an average punter, just like, you're Bob Murphy.
This is not. I'm not just being self-deprecating. I tend to get just the double glance.
I see.
Or the quick hi, and I can tell that they think that I used to go to school with them or something. And then it doesn't happen very often, but I can tell that it's not that's so and so.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of hi, and then I see him go back and go, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. But I get a pretty good go. I'm big with the plus 70 demographic.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Don't
know why. Just the oldies. We're solid.
Well, you strike me as an old soul, Bob. I mean, you're a guy who seems to be in touch with his feelings. You seem to be able to speak well. You seem to be able to use multiple words for one idea, which is really, I guess, in where we're from, you'd be described as a rare bloke.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron, and I think I like to juxtapose that with it's all stolen. It's just all pinched from someone else. I suppose I am a bit of an old soul. I don't know. I tend to live in the past a little bit too much. It's quite confronting when they do the hottest 100 of that year, and I couldn't name you more than
Same
three
thing.
out.
Are you still listening to Triple J though? You still listening?
Yeah,
Double J?
like I'm
Double J these days.
I'm Double J.
Yeah.
I do have sort of. I think I've got old-fashioned tastes. I think
Yes.
that's probably more of what it is. And I was the youngest in my sibling household, and I do think there's something in the youngest. I would like to hear from other people, but always being probably more comfortable listening to older people. I was always like trying to learn from my brother and sister, and then when I got to the Bulldog, like the older player, I would sit, under the dining table at mum and dad's dinner parties and listen to I was always kind of interested in that more so than doing what was hip or, current.
Yeah.
Who were the old players at the Dogs that you were listening to? Like you join in at the turn of the century.
Yeah, so I
be some
pre 9/11.
Yeah,
pre 9/11. Yeah, it's a pre 9/11 time.
Yeah, which is how I think of it. When I arrived, it was so Luke Darcy would pick me up and drive me to training, and he's still a dear friend. Like Matty Croft, Simon Garlick, Ben Harrison, Todd Curley, Scott Wind. So Windy was only my captain for 1 year, but I really
If those car windows could talk.
Yeah.
Do you know, I clearly asked a lot of naive questions because I just remember about halfway through the 2 weeks that Das drove me to training, he just turned the stereo up really loudly.
Yeah.
And it was
classic bloke move.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication was the album, and he just went, yeah. Turned it up. And I was like, okay, we're done here.
Because you're back at the Dogs, at the kennel.
The kennel,
in official capacity now. Like, are you getting the respect from the rookies, your juniors that perhaps your career deserves? Hall of Fame inductee at the Dogs.
It's Murphy walking around Whitney Oval. That's got. There's got to be heads turning on a pike.
Yeah, or is it who the fuck's this bloke?
No, it's everyone's. We're all being very polite at the moment. Like my role is a really minor support role. It's part time. So I just get out there when I can, and just trying to build some relationships with them. But although it's home for me, like it is, where you spend so much of your life and formative years of your life, and it's very much like a part of you. It's but there's so many people there and players that we have no relationship or no history, and there's a little bit of the dogs sniffing their butts, like a little bit of a just like we're just sort of getting to know. It just takes a bit of time, It's not like this, life's not a grade cricketer podcast. This is immediately warm and gregarious, and we're old friends, but it just these things take a bit of time, but we'll get there.
Yeah. How was Perth as a whole, as an experience, not just at Freo, like because obviously, like, you're back here, and I find even going back to Sydney for me, like that's still home. Like when you step out of the airport, that's still it still feels like that, and this ineffable feeling that you're just back home. I love Perth as a place. I love being there. I've never spent a stack of time there, but did you feel that like it's a great city to live in and stuff, and you had good work there? But being back here especially being back at the club that you were raised at, feels like home to you.
Oh, totally, and probably less so of the footy club, more than just the city of Melbourne. But it was a big family adventure. It was probably more of a family decision than certainly a football one or career one. But it was a bit of like, let's shake it up a bit and change it up. It was hard. Like it really was hard on the family. I was working long hours. Footy is long hours, and when you're isolated already, it was a challenge for the family. But 3 years was about the right time. The lifestyle of living in South Fremantle was magic. It was spectacular. That our 2 dogs, beach walks twice a day. The warm Indian Ocean. I mean,
that's the best life possible for a dog.
It was the high points, like the highlights of those 3 years were spectacular. but it's not home, and there was always the tug of home. And I was a bit restless, and working full time in footy, I sort of thought, it's probably not for me at this stage in my life. And we've come back to Melbourne, and honestly, I catch the train home from work every day, and I've got this big cheesy grin on my face, like I'm the happiest commuter in Melbourne because I'm just in love with being in Melbourne again. You sort of see it with a different perspective or fresh eyes or something.
Yeah.
Although it has been, spring and summer and. Let's see if the smile remains once we hit June and July.
Yeah.
But
This is a highly self-indulgent question, but as somebody, and I noticed that said you went to Perth and then you said South Fremantle. You're not meant to say those two things concurrently,
places,
right? Different places.
Yeah. Would rarely go to Perth.
As an outsider, that's right. You didn't go there. As an outsider visiting that region, let's say. My rugby league team is trying to come back into the NRL, the North Sydney Bears, by partnering with Perth. What advice would you give people from North Sydney when it comes to creating bonds and collaboration with the people of Perth for a rugby league team? And what chances do you give that of success?
Should speak to Chad Warner.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, my literary hero is Martin Flanagan.
Yes.
Age writer, novelist, and he has this idea that I've become quite obsessed by to tell a big story, you need to tell a little story. So for North Sydney, did you say?
The North Sydney Bears.
North Sydney Bears, I've showed my hand there. And you just need to sort out the pronunciation of Coogee or Coogee because there's Coogee in WA and I would call it Coogee, and it was like the jukebox would cut out every time.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's little things like that. You
Yeah.
need to get the little stuff sorted before you attack.
I had that with Paran in Melbourne.
Of course. Oh, you've got Reservoir and Reservoir here as well.
That's true.
Reservoir.
That's true.
Polo Bay.
Yeah, Polo Bay. Well,
You
that's
don't
just
even say it
grammatically
according to
incorrect.
the spelling,
St. Albans versus Snorbans.
Castle. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Don't start. So that's how wars start.
Yeah, exactly. What chance do you give rugby league of succeeding in Perth, Bob Murphy?
That's a good question. They love their
Rugby
sport.
what?
They love their sport.
Yeah.
They like a bit of biffo.
A physical area. You're saying.
Yeah, they like an event to get out there and have a swan draft. I don't know. I think it'll be all right. Give it a go. It's been worse ideas.
Yes.
Effusive praise there.
Yeah, that's right.
There's been worse
Murphy
ideas.
endorses Bears.
It's a long way, isn't it? Like
it is quite
a long way.
Yeah.
New Zealand's
Alice
closer.
Springs, like halfway.
Yeah,
no,
Alice.
Yeah.
The Alice.
But I want to talk about midfielders across generations because you're right in the sweet spot now where you are.
I'm not considered a midfielder.
Well,
I just want to.
Okay, but midfield defender. Okay, well, let's say you defender then.
Okay, I'm a flanker.
A flanker.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a rhyming slang. It's an actual position.
We were talking about flankers before.
Although some would argue.
Okay, but in the generation you play, let's talk about midfield battles over time. I'm talking about your Judds, your Goodses, your Vosses, your Buckleys, your Rashudos, your Ablett Juniors, your Kudafidis.
How did you go full Gary Ayres then? That was impressive. Do you even know who Gary Ayres is? But that was you just inadvertently.
I can mimic anyone.
Yeah,
I'm a chameleon.
Melbourne VFL coach. Let's go. Let's fucking talk.
How good did that feel to say? You were.
There's a lot of
you were disgustingly
very disappointed.
You were
with that.
disgustingly happy with yourself.
Yeah. Port.
Is that better than what the league has now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because the thing is about these guys have finished their careers. They've got a holistic view of what they achieved in the game. The numbers are outstanding, but etc. It's a different game.
But was it better in your time?
But was it better in your time? You know.
Well, there's a few questions in there. I feel like now the gun midfielders, there's probably single figures in each team that are just giants.
Mm-hmm. Whereas
I feel like my era, there was clusters of them in the same team, like the West Coast guys, the Brisbane guys, the Geelong guys. They were in a group. Whereas I sort of feel like for the most part these days, there's like Cripps, Bontempelli, these guys. They stand out on the landscape of the opposition team lineups. I don't know if it's just because of your formative years. I feel like football peaked in the mid-90s.
Of course.
Well, of
Yeah.
course. Everything did. Australian sport did.
Well,
When you
and
fell in
also
love with it.
you got to put your hand up and say, well, in 1995, Oasis was my favourite band, biggest band in the world.
Yes.
The Richmond Tigers were my team. They'd been hopeless, made the finals, and I kissed a girl for the first time. I mean, the Holy Trinity just...
The big three. The big three.
The rose-coloured glasses for that statement is alive and well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Is it possible that those players you mentioned, like Bontempelli and Cripps and stuff like that, they stand out more in the landscape today because of the way we tell stories about footy today? You know, like there is a global trend in sport of following players perhaps more than teams and collectives. You know, that there are, there's so much concerted effort within, sport infrastructure to build brands around players as well, and then media follows suit.
I think there's something in that for sure. The promotion of the league is very much the superstars that are on the billboards and perhaps rightly so. I even think the way the game is played now, like when the game stops, the human battleships of everyone is in a position that they're meant to be in for the most part, and I do think that less chaotic style, if you like, or growth in the game does kind of lend itself to, well, the best player is going to be in that spot every time just against his opponent, and so they probably are more likely to just dominate these days compared to the other, when it was a bit more unpredictable and chaotic and different sort of players in different spots, if that makes sense. Not a fully fleshed out theory. By the end of this chat, I might have changed my mind on that. It felt good in the moment. I went with it.
When we cover Indian cricket, for example, a lot of the media culture there is just to lionise the big players. That is what does the most numbers when you are narrating the game. If you talk about Virat Kohli, you talk about Rohit Sharma, you talk about MS Dhoni, your numbers are guaranteed to be bigger. Yep. I'd imagine that is maybe not as pronounced in other places, but as a theory, it works in media to just focus on the superstars because that's what people, that's what people supposedly want.
Yeah.
Right? And it might be harder to speak about the collective or speak about patterns. Those ideas are more abstract to people these days.
I've got two things to say about that. The first is you lasted 15 minutes before we got to cricket, so I just want to say
it's my only reference point. And Gary
you
Ayres.
exceeded all expectations there. I also wonder if the promotion of the superstar is targeted at little kids.
Yeah.
Like a whole team, and that's a harder story to tell.
It's more abstract, right?
And you know what? Let's go the superstar and just put them in your face and give them camera time. It's just more. It's easier to digest, maybe for young kids.
I think that's entirely. You see it a lot driven through the NBA. The NBA, you can follow a player rather than a team because they move around so much, right? I think you see it with Drive to Survive, how that's elevated what F1 certainly in this country is. Like F1's been always quite big, but now its explosion in Melbourne here and how popular that sport is because of a Netflix program, which gives you the stories of the athletes.
Yeah, the story, you're
following the drivers. People don't really care. Sorry. True F1 fans care about Ferrari, they care about McLaren, but for the most part, the average person, they care about Lewis Hamilton, they care about Oscar Piastri. I think that
it's days of our lives with cars,
you see it's entertainment product,
you see with Messi and Ronaldo, you can't be a Madrid supporter, a Barcelona supporter, or a El Nassr supporter in Saudi. You have to pick one of those players who you like. LeBron versus Jordan, Kohli versus Smith in cricket.
I wonder what happens with the AFL though, just on that point.
Yeah.
And I think particularly the basketball one, and I know a lot of the footballers, they're obsessed with basketball and the coaching, but they're always on camera, televised. You can always see LeBron or Steph Curry.
Player cam,
The game of AFL, it's more difficult than that. The big stars are often in it, but the field is too big. There's so many players that it is much more difficult to just follow one player. The game doesn't kind of cater for that as well as other sports.
How much are you a guy who's played? You can narrate the game. You've actually been inside clubs to help with leadership and culture and stuff like that. I note that this week the Western Bulldogs are reverting to Footscray.
Yeah,
talking about talking about an old soul and the way things used to be, right? There's a lot of people who will be like, "That's so awesome. It's Footscray this week."
Yeah.
You know, do you think that players today largely have the same values as players of yesteryear, but they just live in a different market? They've got different interests. There's social media, etc. I really don't want to try to ask, but like,
no. I think I know what you mean. I remember when I finished playing, so that's about 7 or 8 years ago, and I remember sort of thinking, I think we need to retell our club story to our current players because they just don't know that much about it, and that's not a knock on them. It was on us that we need to tell our story a bit better. So we would get people back to talk about, and I was curious. I was like, I wonder how this lands. Like genuinely, like for me, it's like just pour it all over me. Like I'm just a sucker for that sort of, that romantic storytelling side of the game. And I was pleasantly surprised then that I feel like that generation, quite sentimental, like really took it on board, loved the significance of the number they wore, the colours we wore, the Footscray being outsiders and you had to cross the Maribyrnong River to play us back in the day and all of those sort of things. They really took to it. That's 8 years ago. I don't know about now, but I do kind of feel like young people in general, they get kind of lambasted by people of our generation, to be honest, or older, they're TikTok and they've got no concentration and they do. It's like I think it's a bit narrow. I actually think that they're not mutually exclusive. I think that yes, there is the TikTok and all, and their world is kind of quicker and sharper and moves pretty quickly. But
that's the world they're given as well, by the way.
That's right. They inherited that.
It's imposed on them.
If I had to go one way, I'd say no. I think they do have a reverence for the past and the history and what's gone before them. I just think that when they come into the game, they are learning from scratch. That would be my guess. When I arrived at the Bulldogs, my dad had already told me about Arthur Oliver and Charlie Sutton. Like I felt like I had a bit of a history lesson before I arrived, where I feel like a lot of young guys arrive and they're like, Chris Grant, who's that? Like, what do you mean? Bad example. Sorry, Chris.
Just a little drive by on Chris Grant.
That popped into my head.
Well.
Can I ask? Speaking of, the lineage of famous people, right? Terry Wheeler was a huge influence.
He was the one
right?
we got back. Yeah, he was the guy we got back. Yeah.
So Terry, and I want to ask you about like rhetoric in Aussie rules, like the a pre-game speech or just the culture of verbiage, right? It's very different to rugby league. It's very different to cricket. I feel like it's a much more elevated communications culture. There's there's a coded language. People respond more emotionally to a speech. So Terry Wheeler speaks to you and says, and the team, and says everything about the history of the Dogs, right? I live in Footscray, by the way. So, and it does seep into you. You actually feel the pride of the area, even though it's changing a lot.
Yeah.
But can you talk a bit about the culture of like communication and speeches in footy? Maybe the best that you've come across when it came to talking, and has that changed today, or is there still really good rhetoricians in there?
It's definitely a broad church. I think there's a lot of coaches in the modern game who almost sort of downplay that, almost like a bit like that's a gimmick, that, our brand or DNA, feel sick just even using those words. But, it's all about the structure and the scientific element of the game and the strategy, and, it's very, very professional. And I'm not dismissing that either. That's a really important. But to dismiss the what a good orator can do, to take the plan, this is what our plan is, but also weave that through to this is actually who we are and why we're different to who we're playing against and who we're playing for, and the symbolism of the jumper and the people in the room, all those things. I think it's foolish to think that doesn't put air in your tyres or put fuel in your tank. It's the balance of it that is the key. But yeah, Terry Wheeler came and spoke to us as a past coach to a group of players, and his passion around the working class roots, and that that became, it's a bit of a cliche. The Scraggers and the working class, the battling Bulldogs, but the way he was able to speak about that, and because he means it. He's not doing an after dinner speech. He's coming in to talk about what's special about this place to him and why we're different. That lands like a meteorite on a young player. I was like, I now know what this place. I know a lot more about what this place is about. So that left a big mark on me. Scott Wind, who was my first captain, he was different, but he would talk before a game. When you come in, you toss the coin, you come into the small huddle, and it's that deep feeling of loneliness and camaraderie. It's that, and you're holding on to one in a tight little circle, and he would talk really softly with silence, and it made you lean in, and I don't know what he said, but the way he said it made it sound so much more important. I wish I could use it more in my everyday life, because I'm
that's right.
It's like confetti, but his words they had much more meaning to them. And then from there you get Luke Beveridge, who came at a time I was 32 and a dad, and was sort of coming, sort of finishing, I was sort of always, just about done. And then he has this whole other way of talking about footy that was different. He's just a different figure in the game, that tough, unflinching in a crisis. He holds his nerve, and he can sit in uncomfortable situations, but he could tell you things like that he believed in you. And because he believes in himself so much, to the point where you're that's kind of, he's got this enormous self-belief. So when he tells a group of players that have been a terrible shit team for 3 years, which is what we were, he believes in us, it was it sat you back. And then we have a win against the odds up in Sydney. It's wet, and we go and we win by 2 points, and the song's heaving, and he comes into the room and he's got tears in his eyes and doesn't say anything for about a minute or two, which is a long time. And we're waiting for him, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? And he's our new coach, and he just says, "I'm proud of you." And
brick wall.
It hit me in the chest. I was like, well, he's got me for life. It's sort of cut right through to the heart of the matter. You want to make your coach proud. So there's so many different ways to take it. And I mean, Rocket has the reputation of, the fire and brimstone and but his pre-game speeches were he's charismatic, Rocket, storyteller, incredibly funny off the, not on game day, but before a game, he would be talking about, the Roman empires, but he knew it. He wasn't just and the Spartans, and I think they were fighting. Well. No, I think they were. No, he's something like a buff of all that stuff. But and I'm sure he knew half the group didn't know what he was talking about. But it's how he says it, and he means it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's a lot of coaches and analysts in footy. But a senior coach is a front man, there's a session musician, and then there's Mick Jagger, and I think the good ones have that ability. They don't have to all be the same, but they've got a presence. I do. I think, I think Kane Corns might have said it the other week, but Kane and I, we sort of drift into each other very rarely in terms of how we agree on our opinions. But that's when I was like, that rings true for me.
Do you agree with him that there shouldn't have been handshakes last week on the Vol-Kane-O signal? Just talking about Mick Jagger and all this.
Game's gone.
What about Vol-Kane-O?
Yeah. No. Look.
Can you say something like that?
Kane and I have. We both have this curiosity of one another. We don't have a lot to, but I think we both amuse the other one of we're aliens to one another, respectfully. Yeah,
I get the impression
Kane
is
age.
a good performer. I bet he's got levels.
He's good.
Great
He's
company.
good. He knows what he's doing.
It's great company. Yeah, I think he's an underrated comedian. I just think he knows that what's the sensitive point.
Yes.
And he presses. I find myself laughing, and just the outrage, and which is exactly what he wants. And I sometimes wonder if he just has a little chuckle to himself.
That 2016 premiership you're talking about with Bevo.
Rings a bell.
My mate Bevo.
You're never asked about that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and congratulations.
Never get
from all
asked
of us
about
here.
the 2010 NAB Cup preseason championship.
I've got all the notes here on it. Yeah. No, I was going to ask, because where did the team finish that year in 26? Was it 7th?
We finished 7th.
7th, yeah.
There is a bit of a misnomer about that.
How
that
so?
we completely came from nowhere.
Okay.
We finished 6th the year before, and we won a lot of games.
Yep.
And then we just sort of tumbled. We lost the last game, and we sort of tumbled down to 7th. But we were a good team. You know, it wasn't like,
Yeah.
We were up around the mark.
You didn't sort of Stephen Bradbury away into the final.
No. We hadn't sort of fallen in. We just tumbled late.
It was a good side, yeah.
It was a good side.
My question was going to be around like this, like particularly how Bevo communicated with the side, and I suppose momentum and the type of when you mentioned there in the wet in Sydney, close, like it's almost like, do you feel like if you'd blown Sydney away on a dry day or whatever and just played really clinical footy, it might not have given you the same belief to go to the next level? Like it was the way you actually won the game?
There was just little moments of where the way I describe it, and other people can describe it in their own way, that we were a laughing stock at the end of 2014. We just were. We were about as bad as a footy club could be going, really. That's in simple terms. And Bevo comes in, and he has this self-belief, like I said. He brought in this new game style, very brave and attacking, and then he told us he believed in us, that no, we can be something great. And it made us feel good, but you secretly go, gee,
settle down, mate.
And I was the captain, so I'm like, absolutely. Yeah, like, this way, fellas.
Right.
But in my moments going, we might not win a game this year. Like, I did have those moments.
Yeah.
Going,
really?
And then you just have these little milestones. One of them was a preseason game that it's a footnote. No one even remembers. We get to the game. No one's there. We're playing Collingwood, and he walks into the room and he goes, hey, boys, there's going to be an ambush tonight. And to be honest, I was like, what, Collingwood are going to start a fight? They're going to, what are they going to hit us with? Because we're bruised. I'm on and he said, and it's us. What we're going to hit them with, they've got no idea what's coming for them. And I was like, oh, that's different. And then we go out and belt them. And so you just go, oh, okay. So the rest of the world's got no idea of that, but you think, oh, maybe we are, but maybe something else is going on. And then the Sydney game, not expected to win. Sydney always win those types of games. You beat him in the wet, and he'd built the game up like a revolution. What's define what revolution is? And one of the players said, oh, it's a shift from one power to another. And then you win that game in those circumstances, and I was like, your horizon lifts. You're like, geez, maybe we're more than what we think we are. And those things just kept happening that year. And then the year after, and then it became this whole other thing. It's like part of it did feel like it was, and again, a lot of people, particularly in footy, have a hard time with magical thinking. But there were times when I was like, something else is happening here. There's something carrying this group and this club through these choppy waters or something.
Because I know, like, I'm not saying the Tigers are about to win the premiership, right? But what they achieved, it wasn't just that they beat Carlton, is that they were 7 goals down in the game. Like that must give them something, because people were talking about they won't win a game this year. Maybe they'll win one or two.
That. I actually put in the paper they wouldn't win a game.
They might get.
In case any Tiger supporters going, you said that, Murphy. Yeah. The experts are. They're pretty harsh, the experts.
Yeah. something magical happened on that Thursday night. But like that must give them something where it's like, oh, our season has already achieved higher heights than what we could have ever done. Like they might get humped this weekend, right? They could, but
it's kind of not the point, though, is it?
Yeah.
Like, I am not a psychologist by any stretch, but I am wondering about because athletes and footy teams, there's so much to concern yourself with. There's so much to worry about. There's so much to prepare for. The scenarios. There's a million things that can happen. And I think sometimes you go into the game with a broken thumb or a sort, that ailment or that pain makes you focus on, I've got to get over that, and it quietens down everything else. And I kind of feel like sometimes when a team is totally marginalised, like the Tigers, it gives you a single focus going, you know what, it's just us. They all think, me included, we won't win a game. We'll prove a point to them. And Dennis Cometti, I don't know if Dennis remembers, but he called the Bulldogs jabronis before the 2015 season. And a jabroni for that, it's in wrestling of like, you're just there to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love Dennis. We all love Dennis. But we latched onto that and it hurt. And probably because there was a little bit of truth in it at the time. That's why it hurt.
Right.
But you use use that singular thing to not worry about all these other things. You know what? I want to prove you wrong. And I think there's something in that. There's like there might be some sort of Buddhist element to it, you know?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I know you say you're not a psychologist, but a lot of people do.
I didn't even believe it when I said it. You know, I was like, I'm not.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're learning there's a lot of things you say that privately different thoughts.
The cameras are killing me.
Yeah. It seems to be today, you know, that if you don't win the competition, you've had a bad season.
Yeah.
You know, it's not been a successful season. And this is a...
Is that new or always?
I guess I'm asking you, you know, like it's a... and that's not a concept limited to the AFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's probably always in contest, but we're talking about culture, we're talking about values and whatnot. You know, can you can you have a good season without winning the competition?
I have an almost an allergic reaction living in Australia of when there's this default to America being superior. Like, oh, well, what they do in America is, or, you know, well, and I'm like, why do we defer to America being the almighty of like, that's how things are done? We do it in sport a lot, you know, oh, well, they do that in the NBA, so we should. It's like, well, who says that we don't do things a lot better? But having said that, the first time I thought about it was a few years ago, and I was watching, I think it was a baseball documentary, and they kept talking about, and I'll get the terminology wrong, but the AFC champion or the something champion, and I was like, I don't understand. So tell me, and I had to ask someone, I go, what do they mean by the, you know, because my knowledge of baseball comes from Kevin Costner films, really, essentially.
Films too.
Field of Dreams, you know, For the Love of the Game, you know, Bull Durham, all that. That's pretty much how I was like.
Shoeless Joe.
So exactly, Shoeless Joe, you know. Had no errors, you know.
Build a baseball field in a farm in Iowa and some ghosts will come.
That was a documentary.
I feel like some corn all of a sudden. But it did get me thinking around. I had to ask, what does that mean? They're like, oh, well, so they won that part of the competition, and then you go into this part, and then there's the Major League Series, like what do they call it? The World Series.
World Series, yeah.
And
it's the American League and the National League.
Yeah, so I was like, just so I'm clear, so if you were to translate that to AFL, a preliminary final team would be you were a conference winner.
Yeah, a conference champion.
And I was like, that's interesting. And then even the terminology of a very famous broadcaster in America who talks about they were a fun team. You know, like he'll talk about a certain basketball team in the 1994 to 96 range ago. They were a fun team. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like I played in a team that the Bulldogs in that sort of 08 like we were a fun team. It was all out like run and gun and attack, and we weren't a perfect team by any stretch, and we didn't win anything. You know, we made 3 prelims, but I was like, that was a fun team. It was chaos, and it was take the game on, and you know, it was all that. And I was like, oh yeah, I feel like it's a long way of saying I do feel like we've got a very, very narrow view of what success is, and I think part of that is self-fulfilling because a lot of the pundits are all premiership players, and they sometimes talk about this sort of stuff like a pharmacist, from on that level above, and going, yeah, but not a premiership player. Yeah, doesn't know what success is. It's like, I know what you mean, and it's not that you're wrong, but I think there's a little bit of insecurity there of like they like being a bit like,
insiders, outsiders, right?
A little bit, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to get you on the show is like we're always going to feel like, even though, I mean, I've lived in Melbourne for 12 years. Higo's has been here for 3 or 4 years.
Welcome.
I sense we're always...
Welcome.
Melbourne.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to have you here.
Higo's moved in a week before the lockdowns. He just
it'll be 5 years in June.
Yeah, couldn't get enough of it.
But, I want to see what it was all about, the lockdowns. Yeah, it's good.
I actually had to have papers to drive over to your house to do this show.
That's
essential workers. Yeah. Anyway, but we're always going to feel like, out of respect, actually, probably interlopers with Aussie rules or AFL culture. And I guess one of the reasons I wanted to get you on was like, it occurs to me looking at Aussie rules from the outside that it's just, you mentioned, you evoked Martin Flanagan before. We had, we were lucky enough to have Paul Kelly in a few months ago, talking about how he'd rewrite the Adelaide Crow song if he could. You could see his passion. He does circle work for fitness, and the only time he got in the
Melbourne Secret Society.
Well, I've seen it. I know where it is, and I mentioned where it was, and that was it was the only time he cut the podcast to say you can't mention that. His eyes widened. But
Fight Club.
The reason I say it, we listened to Greg Baum talk the other day at a function as well, and there are these people who can evoke these like beautiful, soulful descriptions of what the great native Aussie rules game is actually and has been, but it's not really what you see at the like corporatized, industrial, professional level as an outsider.
Which is a bit like my point earlier around the Americanization of it.
Yeah,
and I get it. And I'm not against all of it. Like a lot of it's really entertaining, and I get it, and it it's brought a lot of money to the game and all, but it's feeling a bit unbalanced to me.
Are they missing something? Like because the sort of football that you talk about, the soulful experience of what the beauty and majesty of Aussie rules can be from not just the professional level, but across the country, whether it's country footy, local footy, suburban, kids footy or whatever, there is a thread there, but you don't see it. I mean, and this is a trend in global sport. There's people know, Man United's building a new stadium at Old Trafford. What do they call it? They're like, it used to be the Soi-Disant People's Ground, but now it's a slick, generic corporate hospitality machine. There's a statue of Puskas outside Albert Park down there, South Melbourne, where Ange Postecoglou used to drive him around with the windows down and stuff like that. But I just don't feel like that is fed into the narrative of the football culture and media we consume today.
It's there, but you have to really look for it.
You do, don't you?
You do. And honestly, like part of the reason, and the big part of the reason why I wanted to sit and talk with you guys is because of the types of conversations you have and the way that you view the game, that it's not old-timey, it's all romance and let's take it back to 1929 and play with, knitted jumpers, although, it's food for thought.
Speak for yourself.
I understand the commercial reality and that these stadiums, whilst they're not as romantic as some, have you ever been to some of them? That's a great night out. They're like incredible spaceships and the facilities. They're incredible, but we've got to hold on to certain things as well. And again, to tell a big story, and it's a big story, a little story. The grand final entertainment, it hurts my brain. I love pop music. I love rock and roll music. I like all that sort of stuff. I don't need it at the AFL grand final. I'll go and see Katy Perry, bad example, but I've got teenage daughters, so I probably would. But, Katy Perry, great. Do I want her at the grand final? No.
Yeah.
Robbie Williams did about as good a job as you could do for that.
Yeah.
Did it add to the game? No, not for the game.
You feel like you're lucky that it's still in the daytime, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I've got like a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old who love their footy now. And I'm like, they wouldn't be able to watch it if it was that night.
I feel like I could organise the entertainment for grand final day in under a minute. Just get G Flip, get Vicar and Linda Bull, and get Paul Kelly. Done.
Yeah.
Done. Tim Rogers. Fine.
We've got a mutual friend, Mark Wilson, who's a bassist in Jet. He says that the most nervous he's ever been at a gig was playing on grand final day.
Well, his team was playing.
Because Geelong was playing. He wasn't nervous about the show. He possibly should have been more nervous given what happened. But,
that's right.
But he was just nervous about the game.
Do you know and a lot of players? You talk to a lot of players, and they have a tense relationship with the media. There's a bit of the media, because it's all, they feel like they're under attack and negative. And I can understand that. And they are, pretty sensitive. And when you're tired and getting judged all the time, and they would say, "Oh, I hate the media." I would sometimes go press them a bit and go, "What do you mean by that?" "Oh, the media." I go, "No, who?" Because there's that on the spectrum of footy journalism. There's this stuff over here that is that tabloid, harsh, clickbait, headline, bang, and then there's Greg Baum and there's Michael Gleeson and there's, I don't just want to reel off the age people, but there's a whole lot of people over here that
Bob Murphy.
Well, of course, I mean,
yeah,
every Thursday in the age. There's this whole other group of people that do write and talk about the game, but I'm worried about how hard it is to find sometimes. You read the Footy Almanac, for those who haven't read it, and you go, there's this audience, there's people
John
there
Harms,
that John Harms,
Yeah.
He's a flag bearer for it. I mean, the front bar kind of touches on it. It's not quite what we're talking about, but they do hit on this.
There's a thread there with the past.
There's a total thread of there's a warmth to it, and not
Yes.
trying to trip people up, and not trying to be salacious, and there is big stories, and sometimes it is combative. I'm not sitting here going, everyone should just get along, and it's like, no, that's bullshit. I don't mean that, but this predetermined, if it bleeds, it leads, and we're just going to who are we going to smash this week? I find it boring.
It's also funny because it's not how real people talk about the game they love. No one talks like that.
No one goes whack.
Yeah.
No one goes whack.
And a lot of the guys, I know them and I'm friends with them and I like them personally, but when I watch a lot of this stuff, it doesn't give me any joy for the game.
It's a machine. It's a machine that drives to it
and are they giving us insight?
Right.
Tell me about what's going on. Sometimes I feel like, and at the moment it's ratcheted up, the footy TV wars has become this new thing.
Of which we're part, by the way. It's a Sunday Footy Feast 7.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, look, we're all hypocritical to a degree, so there's that as well. But sometimes I feel like, are you trying to inform me or are you yelling at the other show?
Yeah.
It's like media people just yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Yep. And media people referring to themselves as brave. Let's put a watch on that.
There's a certain outlet that I sometimes turn on to capture whatever comedy or zeitgeist we can for the show, and I swear to God, over 50% of the time they are discussing other parts of footy media. Like media talking about itself has become a large part of the content schedule of the media.
But it must be, people must be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we are. This has all gone meta.
Damn it.
Anyway, Bob's disappointed with how this conversation turned in on itself.
Well, this interview is brought to you by visitsaudi.com.
Yeah. I don't know, but maybe people, they're into it if we keep doing it. Sort of, who knows?
Bob Murphy, thanks so much. I feel like that's tip of the iceberg stuff, but it's gone for 46 minutes.
I do want to ask you, when you captained the All-Australian team in 2015, how did you guys go in the World Cup?
Any day now. We're ready.
Yeah.
Got myself fit.
That's one of my favourite genres from the outside of AFL media is when they pick the All-Australian team and they start talking about how they could play.
Yeah. Who's going to play where? Yeah, matchups.
He'd actually be good with inside footy.
Who would we play?
Mars.
You know how they give those jackets?
Yeah.
We had a big party at our house one night. Like it was a proper rock and roll party. Like it was.
Now we're talking.
It was a neighbourhood over there. It was fun, and it went till all hours in the morning. And I got up in the morning. And the house is just. It was a wreck.
Yes.
There was stuff everywhere. And I just saw the All-Australian jacket draped over a dining chair. I was like, ooh. And looked at my wife. She goes, "Yeah, you went in and put that on at one point." and re-entered the party.
Right, as you would.
Right, rightfully so.
It's definitely the best or worst moment. But,
fine line.
Yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing it in today. Shame you couldn't wear it on set.
Yeah, that's right. We always ask the players to bring their
next
baggy
time,
greens in.
part 3.
Next time. That's right.
I'd love to do a part 2 and a part 3 through the season. Bob Murphy, thanks so much for blessing the circus with your presence. Just a couple of Sydney footy interlopers.
Oh, no, honestly, fellas, I love what you do and keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks very much to Bob Murphy for popping in, as he likes to do from time to time. But we thought we're doing a show today anyway. We should just get him on the show.
Mike, yeah.
Anyway, good to see Bob. We'll probably see him tomorrow when he comes in anyway. But the guests don't end there, Pezza, on the show.
No, we've got Goxie. Goxie's in.
Yeah.
Friend and being a friend of ours for a little while, Goxie, we haven't had you on a pod yet. We did have you at our live show opening up, which was hysterical. And I want to say, before you say one word, the two things I remember most. One, an incredible, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, I'm not going to say the joke, but an incredible Bradman Morse code joke. And two, I was standing next to Doss, Matthew Hayden, who was absolutely fucking roaring and commentating on your set, saying he's got him now.
He's got him now.
He's got him now. He's got him in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
So welcome Aaron Gocs.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks for saying what I told you to say. But no, that was an amazing night because your fans is something.
That is true.
But as you know, there was a few parts to the show, so I kicked things off with the stand-up. That is amazing to hear what you said. Being a Queenslander, we hold our sport. Well, everywhere loves their sports heroes, but Queensland's just next level. Like there's being a cricketer or rugby player, whatever, is the top job in Queensland. So, but yeah, the performance was amazing. But then what stands out for me was being the what do you call it? Going around.
You were handing the mic to people during Ask TGC.
Yeah. And that was amazing to see. The range of questions. I used the word questions loosely because some of them were poems. There was poems.
There was a poem.
There's a lot of statements.
Rants. There was a few rants. And the odd question thrown in.
That's right.
Just like stretching across with the mic. And,
you were very active.
I think I threw it, so I'm sorry to the Tivoli if your mics aren't.
that was a great night, fun night.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was fun night. Haydos was on fire with his yarns.
Yeah, and we were backstage as well. I don't think he'd mind us lifting the lid, but we were backstage as well discussing religion with him.
Yeah.
As well.
With his snakeskin boots.
With his snakeskin boots.
Yeah, and he looked amazing.
And Grace.
The current world of cricket where he's talking about having to be in India and Pakistan. And
Yeah, that's right. Different players. And
we did it all. We did it all.
Anyway.
Before we get into the rest of the show, I wanted to talk about some golf, Pezza. And Gocsy. So Rory McIlroy won his second The Players' Championship of his career a couple of days ago. Only Tiger's won it 3 times. It's considered the unofficial 5th major in golf. He won it in a playoff. That's not what's interesting here on this show, okay? So there was footage of him in the practice round. I think it was on Wednesday. So he loses the ball off the tee, goes in the water off the tee, and then there's the 20-year-old Luke Potter, a University of Texas golfer, sledged him while filming with his phone out with something to the effect of just like the 2011 Masters, which that refers to Rory's greatest ever meltdown in the major, and the only thing that's stopping him from completing the Grand Slam, something only 5 golfers have ever done in history, right? So it's a bit of a sore point for Rory. So Rory, it's a practice round, tees it up, puts it in the water. This kid with his phone out says, just like the 2011 Masters, or something to that effect. Rory then tees up again, puts it down the fairway, and then he walks up to the kid who's behind the ropes and says, "Can I see that?" And then he takes the kid's phone away and starts walking away with it. It was very funny, but then Potter was escorted from the premises and apologised to Rory the following day, as did his college coach, so kind of embarrassing. But someone else was filming the whole incident, so that video went online and now everyone is calling Rory soft, fueled some more blowback to the best golfer of this generation, some would say. So, Gocsy, I would put it to you because you're a man that goes to many Sheffield Shield games, and I know that you've been known to have a chat to some of the players on the field. How would you like it if, say, Matt Renshaw walked up to you and took your phone away and then started deleting videos from your phone?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you probably not come to the right person to ask about audience etiquette, but as a being a 90s kid and being into comedy, my first thought comes to mind is Happy Gilmore, like people upsetting Shooter McGavin.
Oh, yeah.
But and now the added element of the people trying to do pranks for their I wonder if this was for a YouTube channel or TikTok or something.
Well, what makes it even stranger, I suppose, is that this kid is a college golfer. And so the day before, they have this invitational called the John Haight Invitational at the golf course. So it's a college tournament held at the course, and this kid won it. So this kid's a serious golfer.
Yeah.
He's just won this college tournament the day before, and then he's like chirping Rory McIlroy was filming it, probably for some sort of social media clout.
But even then, I'm very obsessed with like people who think they do like a gotcha, like, oh, I'm going to say this will, and it's like, Rory, you choked in a major, like, and it's like, well, listen, buddy, what's the biggest tournament you've done? Like,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, if you follow any sports fandom comment sections, there's a lot of that.
It's garbage, Well, yeah.
When I saw you doing it, you were just caught on like cricket.com.au though. You weren't filming it on your own phone.
No, that's mine's just pure from the heart.
Yeah.
But then there was a bit of a tension came with it. I think a Queensland Bulls fan page I did an interview for, and it got to my head a bit.
Are you willing to speak about the incident, or would you rather sweep it under the carpet?
I'm not sure if you mind me saying this, but I think I messaged you, and then you had it on. Being a Sheffield Shield nuff.
That's right. Yeah, got to do it for work.
The seven of us. Oh, I shouldn't say.
Yeah, the federal police.
No, I'm a hardcore Sheffield Shielder, so I give it a bit of grief, but it's from the heart.
Well, Pete Hanscom's cool with you, so that's
Pete Hanscom's alright with you.
Yeah,
he's alright.
He thought it was funny.
It was like the same thing. My gotcha was pretty bad. It was like, oh, you only make runs on Junction Oval, you know? It's like,
hell yeah.
As opposed to the 3 runs I've scored in my life, you know?
Well, actually, you filled in via Airtasker once for a game, didn't you?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, we actually had you on Wasted Saturdays, our program on YouTube.
That was very interesting experience. That was a very low grade.
Yeah.
I remember, this is how low grade it was. They didn't even change ends for overs.
Oh,
just
shit.
bowled
Like the
from
100.
one end.
Saving time.
Yeah.
Saving time.
And so the way that works, like mechanically, was that you put up a post on Airtasker saying if anyone needs me to fill in.
No, it was the other way around. They had a thing saying we need a fielder.
Oh yeah,
we need a fielder for and I just replied, I'm bad, but I'm available.
Yeah, and you got a wicket, didn't you?
No, that was another. So there was the
Airtasker job.
There was the Airtasker one where I just fielded. I didn't battle bowl. And then off of the back of that, I'd like to say multiple offers, but just the one. The team asked me if I wanted to come, and 4th delivery, bowling right arm rubbish.
Yeah,
got caught.
Job done.
Yeah, got him. They were on the right, almost on the boundary, but wicket's a wicket, as you know.
Were they paid appearances?
Not large amounts, but
they were paid. I know, like,
so I'm essentially
first
a professional
athlete. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like people who wouldn't be paid as much.
Yeah.
So
professional athlete.
You're getting paid to play sport.
Professional athlete. I'm trying to work out which order to put things. I'm professional athlete / comedian / courier driver. That's my Monday to Friday job.
So I reckon like what's happened here at the players, right, because with golf, because they're so close to the players and it's so quiet and still.
Yeah,
that's actually about as close as you can get with Sheffield Shield. It's quiet. You're close to the players. Everyone can hear what you're saying. So it's quite intimate. It's different to be like at a footy ground where like you're screaming abuse at an umpire, say.
Yeah, well, I've been at some. I love my sort of low level sport and
like the Sheffield Shield.
No, I didn't mean that, but sure. But you know, I won't. You can place a wager sometimes, and I've seen people giving directions. You know, like
really,
like coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, and then I mean, like that's all a bit of fun. There's times when
gambling on lower level sport.
Yeah, it can go.
And directing people around
a bit pear shaped. I remember
at a cockfight once.
Like soccer, they have like I'm pretty sure most cities in Australia, you can get on the first grade suburban.
Yes.
And I went to one in Brisbane near where my parents live, and this person was behind the goalkeeper and had an air horn when they went to kick it. As he goes to kick, he's like, you know.
Classic stuff. Yeah, classic stuff.
One thing I admire about you, Gocsy, because again, you're from Brizzy. You're down here in Melbourne. You did a show last night, but you've got like I feel like you've got a lot of Melbourne cred. We're not from here either, but like you traverse different sports. Like you can talk properly about Rugby League, and talk properly about Aussie rules and a whole bunch of other sports. Like you're on St Kilda's content capture day. You play local league when you can.
I'm that one guy in Australia who likes both NRL and AFL.
Yeah.
No, but it is funny because people give me grief, like commenting on stuff, and say if I'll say something on Rugby League, and they'll be like, stick to AFL. I'm like, I was Rugby League first. I've been watching the Broncos since 92, 93, you know.
Are you happy with Madge coming in? Players not wearing shirts at training, discipline?
Yeah.
Just bring
early days though.
Yeah.
Wasn't too happy on the weekend.
That's right. Are you convinced? Like a lot of people are saying Madge has fixed them Broncos top 4, but after what we saw on the weekend, do you think there's a bit of work to do?
Yeah, well, it's early days, but
would you say there's cracks appearing, Gocsy?
Yeah.
And should Madge be sacked?
There's a few Madge out suggestions, like
Jesus,
might have been from me in the group chat, but look at his track record, you know.
The Tigers.
He managed to get New South Wales to win, so that's unthinkable.
Yeah. This is unrelated to sport in any way, but and you might not even want to talk about it, but the first time I ever came across you, maybe same with lots of people, was a Stitch Up video, right?
Yeah.
That was that on Facebook? How long ago was that?
Yeah, pretty long ago now. Yeah, pretty much.
Did that blow
I put
you
a lot
up?
of my stuff on Facebook. I think that was where it was kind of took off.
That's when it took off. Yeah.
Does it follow you around like a shadow, or do you like talking about it?
Do you like talking about it?
It is kind of my Radiohead creep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Silverchair Frog Stomp.
Yeah.
No, it is same sort of thing, I guess, with those bands where you want people to like your newer stuff, but
Yeah.
it's better they like something than nothing.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I do get, again, I talk a lot about comment sections. I'm in them, but I'll say something and then they just reply, Stitch
Yeah,
Up.
okay,
Or,
yeah.
It's like, that was something I said 8 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
I've been in 2 movies now, you know.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it, you know.
Yeah. I understand.
But it's a weight I carry around.
Yeah.
No, well, I appreciate it. It gave me a bit of a launch because I've been doing stand-up comedy now for 18 years, so it's quite a while.
It's a long time, yeah.
And before that, it was just plugging around the local pubs and barely anyone knew who I was. So it did give me a bit of a nice boost. That was good. But I'm keen for people to check out my other stuff now too.
Speaking like we're talking local sport. No, you knock around local sport, Gocs. I've got a couple of we're into the boys actually section now. This is where people just write in correcting our mistakes, and it's got to start with boys actually.
It's usually a very short segment because we've actually made so few mistakes.
Because we don't make mistakes, right, on a show where we're outside of our lane of cricket. So a couple here particularly responding to some conversations we've been having about trying to understand like local Victorian footy, as in Aussie rules. Brown paper bags, drinking rules, etc. There was no shortage of people coming into not so much boys actually, but more of a what you got to understand is vibe. So I'll read a couple here. It's from a non. Boys, what you need to realise. Every Saturday night in every Aussie rules-obsessed country town, there's a quiet middle-aged man slinking around in the shadows, handing out chunky brown paper envelopes to coked-up, cruiser-drinking, out-of-town 20-something-year-olds, also known as, quote, petrol money. Officially, the club itself has no knowledge of these envelopes. They only operate within the salary cap, of course. But there's ironclad verbal agreements. All is well. Until either said players don't buy beers for their unpaid teammates or paper envelope dealer can't produce the cash. See the sad story of, I'll just say name redacted, and there's a link there as well. And then there's a GoFundMe set up to fight this unjust paper envelope dealing. And then the guy says, unfortunately, I'm unable to donate to this cause because I'm madly lobbying my local real estate agent / used car dealer / rural fodder store to top up my own paper envelope bank account. Wish me luck, the shadow treasurer.
So I was actually thinking about cash the other day because I went to, where did I go? I went to get coffee and I was with LJ and we ordered a large coffee, but they didn't have a large cup, but already paid for it. So then they reimbursed us $2 because they just gave us 2 small coffees instead.
Oh, I see.
And now I've got a gold coin and I don't know what to do with it.
Just play heads or tails with it.
Yeah. So, but then I was like, will cash ever die? Is cash always going to be king? Is it king still?
You just got to wait for the right busker who's doing a song you like.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sick of Wonderwall.
Yeah.
I'm going to save this dollar. Yeah.
Can you play Creep by Radiohead?
Yeah. Good throwback. But that's something very interesting. This is the whole, like, when you go to lower levels, because you got mentioned that like the money can be quite large in the country leagues, and from what I've heard, like I'm always intrigued to ask about how it all works and that, but it's a little bit like in the city with school sports where you got the old boys, you know.
Yes.
But in this case, in the bush, it's farmers are the old boys instead of college boys. You know,
there's a bit about that because there's two different competitions. Just a quick one on the brown paper bag stuff. This one comes in from Mr. Nonce. Keep this one anonymous as it's quite nonce knowledge, but boys, actually, with the local league salary cap, the coach's salary is outside the salary cap, but if they are a playing coach, then half of the salary goes into the salary cap. Most Victorian (AFL) leagues have a salary cap of 120 to 140k. Majority of clubs hit the salary cap, and allegedly, lots of clubs go over the cap, as most people will tell you. It is destroying footy clubs. It is common knowledge that some clubs are paying $300,000 a year in player payments.
Fuck me.
There are some excellent alleged stories of players getting paid in weird ways, given a vehicle, free meat, house renovations, brown paper bags, etc., etc. Yeah. A personal favourite is when redacted player was playing for a name that everyone would know, was playing for a country club to pay a gambling debt off. Player sign-on payments aren't legal, but happen at every club. Some blokes getting 5 to 10k cash up front for signing out the club. Also common to hear of blokes taking a sign-on, then never rocking up or not playing. Country Vic footy is cooked. Regards, Mr. Noz.
See, this is what I was getting at. Like, what if cash just disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would drug dealers be able to exist? You know, the real people in this society. You know.
Encrypted coin.
How are footy clubs going to survive in this day and age? How do we get these semi-elite athletes out there?
Yeah,
you know, to get out there on the weekend, get them out of the house on a Saturday if there's no cash available.
So you're saying what you're saying is the digitization of the economy could kill local sport.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. Something to think about. Without brown
and
paper
the buskers
bags,
and the buskers.
Without brown paper bags, we're not going to have two of life's great sort of happenings or phenomena. Local footy and cocaine
and buskers.
One of the things I remember about local sport is the going around with the meat tray, raffling it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, do you walk around with an FPOS machine or... Because
what do you call those things that we have?
The square.
The square. Everyone's walking around with the square.
Yeah. Because I remember some hot days walking around with these trays... starting to go a bit green but once you've done a lap of the field.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
These are things we need to think about.
And then, being a comedian, we sometimes perform at sports clubs. I know when you go a little bit inner city, you can get there's now the vegan option tray, you know?
Nice, yeah.
Which is nice, you know? There's some beautiful fruit in there. and veggies.
Do you tailor your material based on the demographic of the club? Like the further out you go, the bluer it might get, just to be stereotypical?
Sometimes. Like I do... I pride myself in being able to tread the boards, but obviously you're like, I'm a few hundred Ks out of the city now. They probably don't want to hear about banh mi and...
the Greens.
Yeah. Well, you said not me. Yeah. I'm not that political, but...
No, sure. Yeah.
It's definitely... You do have to think about it, but at the same time, like some people like it when you don't dumb it down for them or whatever.
Yeah.
Benjamin says, boys, actually in Melbourne, the elite VAFA competition try to maintain their superiority by not allowing alcohol consumption at their grounds. If you head to the other local leagues, you will definitely see plenty of cans being sold and probably see many examples as to why the VAFA steer clear of selling grog. Cheers, Ben.
Right, okay, yeah.
So sort of puritanical
can get rowdy
approach, yeah. So I think the VAFA, as far as I could see from a lot of the messages that came in, I won't read them all. It's like is the old boy stuff. It's like Scotch old boys, Xavier old boys, Melbourne Grammar, all that sort of stuff. So they go dry.
I got to say, I have seen local rugby league community rugby league games on a Saturday afternoon, and it's raucous. Like, and with a little bit of heat in the air, like a little bit like this could kick off.
I'd love more of a law enforcement. What you got to understand is coming in here, like a boy's actually from law enforcement. So I imagine the argument against it is that like once you have a critical mass of people who are able to drink without a club having the funding to have requisite security or regulation of it, then you might run into trouble. But then on the other hand, it's just like, wowzer stuff, let people have a drink if they want. You know? Just, they're the two arguments. Yeah. You see?
I always thought with local rugby league fields, you can kind of tell how big the drinking culture is by, you know, the name of the drinking area. Like it'd often be like the pig pen. Like, my first club I played for, they were a magpie emblem.
Yes.
So you'd think it'd be like magpie pen, but it was just called the pig pen. Like, because they often like refer to the emblem. But I love just. Bypassing the birds, going straight to the pigs.
It was just all that piggery.
Sometimes called like the zoo, the animal enclosure. That was St Kilda Saints' famous sort of at Moorabbin. Right,
so they're actually they're encouraging people to kind of devolve into animalistic
It's,
behaviour while drinking.
And that's what causes this sort of anger now, where it's like people saying that the stadiums are now very like gentrified, you know.
Yes,
we did wonder if you could save like international one-day cricket in Australia by reinstating full alcohol, like full-strength alcohol.
Where did I read that you can drink? They're going to trial full-strength alcohol. Where did I read that? Anyone? They're going to reintroduce full-strength alcohol somewhere? Doing a ground in Australia.
I'd love if your law enforcement, like wowzerish, what you got to understand is. I really would. I bet there's very like elegant, sophisticated, sensible arguments, allied with examples of serious violence and victims.
I just saw that this week they've in Sydney and they had like a limit on beer, like mid-strength only. Was it the Western's suburb stadium? They've let it go now. Yeah.
Oh, so they're back to full strength.
I
couldn't imagine that standing in like, listen, we're going to do some other sports now. People have been waiting.
Oh, good.
Nearly 2 hours. David says, boys, what you got to understand is that in American football, punters and kickers, we were discussing this last week, guys, boy. Punters and kickers are not the same player.
No, they're different.
Brackets, you use this role interchangeably.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, that's it, boys, actually.
Yeah.
Punters punt the ball in the field of play and kickers kick the field goals and extra points.
Yes.
You also inferred that in the US, there aren't many sports where you primarily kick a ball. Brackets, hence why Australian football players are in high demand in college football punting positions. That's in capitals.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'll find some college football punters and kickers are soccer converts. Beers soon felch. I think that's a weak point, the second point, but take the first one. Michael says, boys, 3 episodes down and not one mention of the NBL yet.
Yeah, well.
Sirens sound in the distance.
And we're in final territory, aren't we?
This nation's domestic basketball comp not worthy of airtime, it seems. Did you not enjoy Jason Tatum's dad coached Illawarra Hawks taking on Delhi and Bubbles of Melbourne United? Did Dunks buzzer beaters, lots of turnovers, sponsors taking up 99% of the court, heaps of white blokes and Australian D-list celebrities in the crowd not get you going? Do the dulcet tones of Andrew Gaze on comms not put lead in your pencil enough to even brush over the mere occurrence of this final series? Sirens intensify. I'm sure this electronic mail sums up the broader thoughts of the audience silently crying out for some NBL insights from the two of you, or at least from Charlie. Cheers. P.S. The women's preseason netball comp wrapped over the weekend. The Team Girls Cup, or TGC, if you may. Think these are some early warning shots being fired across the bow that the TGC brand could be usurped. Brackets, keep eyes peeled on this, methinks.
I will say this, that I somehow on my screen, the NBL final, it must have been the first or second game, was on, and I recognised one of the jump shots of the guy, and it was Dellavedova, and I was like, oh, he plays here now.
You recognise a Delhi jumper?
I did, yeah.
Not bad.
Well, we was playing at the Cavs when LeBron...
Yeah. You're into the NBA 12 years ago.
Yeah, 2016 against
8 to 10.
Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
I think it was in that team.
I'm actually a big Brisbane Bullet fan from way back.
Now we're talking
I believe you.
From the Leroy Loggins days.
Yeah, of course.
The Loggins days, yeah. The hammer.
But the thing about when you go to a game...
and you would go.
Yeah.
So the actual action of the game is very good. It's great. But it's the timeouts when it starts, right? We're talking... they bring out the little trampolines and these little gymnastics guys doing flips.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the action.
Yeah, that's what
it really starts.
That's what really starts, yeah.
And like, I just went recently and I'm not sure if I should say the name, but they were doing a chant for a particular burger company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Let's call them...
You can say it, man.
Yeah, starving and a man's name. But there wasn't even any like Usually I always thought they would have like, if someone gets both their shots, then everyone gets a Whopper. I'll just say.
Let's just say.
You can work out which company that is.
A whopping burger.
Yeah,
indeed.
Starving jackalins.
You guys might have some get some meals delivered now. Like, oh, thanks for mentioning it. But they're like,
that's not how it works.
So the chant was just literally just saying the company's name. It was like,
really?
Yeah.
Really? Because I think because they do it sometimes if like the away team misses both free throws, then they get whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised. There wasn't any kind of rhyme or reason to it. It was
they were just
literally just going, and it's like the I was going to say ground announcer, I guess stadium announcer is leading it. And there's not even any, he's
that's
just
great work from the marketing man.
That's capitalism right there.
Well, as you know, I'm not saying everything you guys is cricket, but you'd know from another company, the buckets.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
KFC.
Yeah.
Oh,
just saying.
Let's just say it. Everyone knows by now.
This isn't the ABC.
But I love how they're just like, here, take this, and people just, all right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I needed to wear something on my head.
Yeah, I needed a bucket of chicken on my head.
Yeah.
Jason says watching the first two sessions of WA versus Victoria.
Wow.
Okay. Then crossing the bridge to watch Eagles versus Gold Coast at Optus Stadium. My wife reluctantly has sex with me on special occasions, and my court date is early April. Now, Jamie, just to finish off, says, hello, turncoat, ultra crepidarians, ultra crepidarians. Just adding to the pailfuls of mail I assume, or more like to think you've received rehigos, calling a Guernsey a Jersey. What is seemingly, brackets to you, a small matter of nomenclature, is actually a microcosm for wider cultural implications and a very important distinction. As all in Melbourne know, but the bum sniffers may be surprised to learn, Jersey and Guernsey are two channel islands in the English Channel just off the coast of Normandy, brackets, this is in France. I believe the divide came from both producing types of sweaters and the Guernsey variety, brackets thicker, sleeveless, being chosen for Aussie rules. Now what you've got to understand, boys, is that this actually reflects the two codes aptly, with Jersey, the more British of the islands, representing Rugby League, brackets, boorish, insular, undereducated, compared with Guernsey, the more continental of the two, standing in for Aussie rules, brackets, refined, cosmopolitan, debonair. You make that mistake again and it's back to the land of James Packer and slightly small beers. Final note is that I'm liking early use of the Barassi line as the primary model for distinction, as it's 1-0 Aussie rules on name alone. Thanks for coming, Mr. Football. Cheers, Jamie.
Well, I presume Jamie wrote that from the Paris end of town.
Yeah, that's right. The Paris end of the ground they booed Adam Goods at with all of their sophistication and cosmopolitanism.
Well, this person needs to go to Leichhardt Oval, right?
Like, how that just beautifully drips in snobbery, doesn't it? Like, is the AFL like? And fuck, Code Wars stuff is grim, and I'm seeing some of it pop up on socials. But like, do AFL people? I think AFL people do consider themselves. I think Jared Waitley said this last week. They consider themselves above Rugby League. Rugby League is kind of relegated to a thuggish, boorish game played by criminals, etc. and brutes, whereas AFL is the land of the sophisticated and the elegant. It's a little stereotyped, isn't it? Goxie, I mean, you're across both.
Yeah, I've noticed that over the years. I don't wish everyone could come together.
Yeah, me too.
And in some sort of scrum or a ruck, but look, I just find, because I grew up with rugby league, and I find a lot of rugby league, but not everyone, but very defensive. They're always like, it's like with the American thing, they were so keen to say, like, we don't wear pads. And
Yeah. They're trying to find an angle.
Yeah.
Whereas AFL people just call it rugby.
Yeah.
So they just
it's not really.
They sort of win there, don't they? By just calling it rugby, just completely disregarding. Well, they win some points, but then also they're also the sporting capital of the world, mate. So
I like the implication here that like rugby league with English roots, even though English people would regard themselves as more sophisticated than Australians, is the boorish one. Whereas AFL, which doesn't, where there's one city that calls itself the capital of world sport, doesn't know the name of other sports from Australia, and is one of the most provincial. Kind of like insular, inward-looking, ignorant kind of entities known around the world. So who gets like the moral high ground? On
moral
sophistication?
high grounds, yeah. And like just liking both, like all three of us do, is no good to anyone.
Well, that's just lane stuff. You've got to be in a lane, Tim Lane.
I like the NBL.
I always think it's quite funny when Rugby League people to say why their attendance numbers are a bit down. They just, it's a TV game.
Exactly.
It's
I mean, it's like it could be one of those things where if you investigate it, it's like
I don't think Rugby League wants to be investigated.
But instead of to me, it's just like I just think you don't want to go. It's too good on TV. You know?
That's right.
I like it when I hear the bunker.
Yeah,
that's the best part. Goxie, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
it.
Anything coming up? Anything you want people to know about?
Shout out.
I do have a rival podcast.
Oh, you do. That's right. You got a league show on the hill. Kicked off last week.
I don't know if that's the right thing to promote rivals, but
no, please go for it.
We're starting at a lower grade than you guys. Just started that up with my friend Matteo, so talking NRL and a bit of local sort of footy and stuff. So that's why we called it On the Hill, because it's like it's trying to get away from the big concrete stadium view.
Yes,
you know?
it's the soul of the sport.
It's a movement. It's a way. It's a lifestyle.
That is one thing I believe NRL has over AFL is the suburban ground. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not upcoming, but I was in a movie, The Emu War. Check that out.
Nice. That was nominated for some awards as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was a bit controversial. The people who won, because it was a best indie movie. And I think the people who won spent too much. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, well.
So talking about like salary caps.
Well, that is very allied to sport as well.
We were like, we had to put on a brave face, but we were seething.
But Goxie, if you're in any of these, like, don't you like in sport? My theory is that like, if your club is not in on a rort, you can guarantee that it won't be successful. Like your rort's got to be good. Yep. Australia tried to qualify for the tried to host the Football World Cup, and corruption was alleged later on within the Australian bid, but its corruption wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good
enough.
Is
that a bit like the Lance Armstrong view? Like everyone was doing.
Everyone was juicing. Yeah. My juicing worked out your
juices
juicing.
best. Yeah. Financially, physically, medicinally.
Yeah.
So something to think about. In the movie
I forgot what that's on, but it's on a few.
You can find it. The
Just
Emu
type
War.
it in, the Emu, Aaron Gocs,
Google.
please.
Google Emu War. It's silly, but it's fun. I got to talk to emu puppets, and that was the hardest part, keeping a straight face. I had to talk like to these puppets.
Yeah. That's great.
And then just in general, I do stand-up comedy around my 18th year of it. So.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but thanks so much for having me, guys.
Mate, anytime. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it. Pezza, thank you.
And thanks to you.
And thanks to Bob Murphy for stopping in as well. We'll see him tomorrow just for, when he just comes in. And thank you for joining us here for the circus. The 4th week of the circus, 1 month in. See you guys for week 5. Cheers.